Call this finance meeting to order June 24th, 9 a.m. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Public comments to budget hearings. Mr. Anderson, you're on.
Good morning, everybody. Morning. Mine's quick and painless. As everybody has seen from the page of my budget book.
If you'd like, have a seat. If you stand.
Look at page 6 on.
I know I've already put it all together. So again, mine's pretty simple. I am 5% under what I asked for last year, which was actually last year was under the year before as well. This year, I was able to secure a much lower request because I signed a contract with a new third-party supplier, which was HyperReach. That's our emergency notification system. Although they will be providing until the end of their contract next year when this next payment would be going out. I've changed to a different supplier, one the state of Illinois has signed with. And that is instead of what will be next year, almost $7,500 annual fee. I secured a contract for $2,500 for the same service. Everything's exactly the same. It's actually an easier platform to work with. So that provided me with a substantial savings on my overall budget. And so I really don't have too much more to add to that. I'm just hoping that you guys will approve what I have, because as small as my budget is, it's important to me. And so.
Is this the department that has the weather station going?
No, the weather station is strictly, it's owned by EMA, it's owned by the county, and it's just providing data.
This is EMA.
Yeah.
Did this department fund it?
Did EMA purchase the weather station? Is that what you're asking? Yes, it came out of my budget, yes.
Okay. The question is, I guess, just common sense. Our county is such large by area. Do you have accurate coverage on the southwest?
No. This is just one device that's located here locally, because the only other areas that we would have if we were to request data would be either coming from the Kankakee Airport or coming from University of Illinois. It left all of Iroquois County. Anything else that was out there that have data provided, the services don't know what level of device. So
I was just thinking that most of our storms come to the southwest.
True.
And by having it in Watseka, are we have enough warning to help people in the southwest of stuff coming this way is all I was asking. I didn't think it was that expensive of what you set up.
No, I mean, it's not so much for what would be predictions. It's more for what is current weather as it occurs.
Right, but my point is it has to hit our tower here after it goes through Buckley, Boda, and other areas.
Correct.
And that's all I was asking. Is
Yeah,
I mean, consider another tower.
It's not a matter of, I mean, the device, to get it set up, everything, I have to have Wi-Fi access to it. I have to have a way to translate that data here. I mean, and there are other ways of receiving information, like I said, that come in.
Fair enough.
I mean, I could look into that. I might be able to see if I can start receiving data from what is Ford County's. Because Ford County EMA has one as well, and I work very closely with Ford County. So they can share their data with us. But this was just more so, if I had a fire department with an incident somewhere in Iroquois County that wanted to know what the current temperature, wind speed, direction, relative humidity, those things are pertinent to what would be like hazardous materials incident. And I don't want to rely on data that's coming from Kankakee or coming from Champaign. I want something at least that's going to give me something from at least the middle of the county that I can rely on.
Right. Is this solar powered?
Yes.
Okay. One last thing to think about, just friend to friend, is all these renewable energy companies want to help our county.
Okay.
And so they might have the land, they might have the fees to pay for something that would help you out.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So
Yeah.
go take a look at what would be a potential solar farm that's going in.
When they come to meetings, we can just say, if we know what the cost is, hey, would you consider sponsoring this?
Sure.
And that would be another way to get some
That's a good
information.
idea. And actually, I could go back to some of those after the fact and
Yeah,
see if they'd be willing to.
We're a little,
Might be behind the case.
we're a little ahead of the curve, but
Okay.
I'm just saying is I'll
Yeah.
try to
I like that idea,
Yeah,
sure.
No problem.
Especially if they're gonna pay for it, they're gonna power it, they have Wi-Fi access, I know they do, because they have to provide data.
Exactly.
So all they'd have to do is feed their info to me, and I could have it at hand. No, I like that, thanks.
Excellent.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay.
But, no, other than that, with my budget, like I said, I think I have everything else that's on there. And I think I'm doing pretty well compared to all the other departments, at least I'm under. So,
Very good. Any questions, other questions for Mr. Anderson? Thanks for your hard work.
no, I appreciate it. No, I have a passion for what I do. I try to stay ahead of the game. I've got all my deliverables that I go. I'm never behind on any of them. I'm always ahead of the game. That's just the way I am. Because the way I look at it is if I have to ask for time to, for an extension or something, now I'm disrespecting the next level. Somebody that I may have to ask for an extension, but that person may have to because of what I'm doing. So I try to make sure all my stuff is done in advance. And, you know, even with my position within the health department, all of my deliverables come to an end as of the end of June. I am done with all of them. Reporting is not due until the end of July, but I'm done with all of that as well. So I get ready to start a whole new fiscal year over there now. So, but the way it is. All right, appreciate your time. Enjoy playing with numbers all day. Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
No problem. I'll just leave it at that. I'm not a numbers person at all, so.
I have a question about one of them.
Oh, okay. Go
I
ahead.
can't find it now, let's see. He was gonna come down in expenses from where he was all in the past, okay. Service contracts, it's up as high as 7,300, you're gonna only have 3,000 this coming year.
That's where I have cut the ties with the company that we've been using since my predecessor took over. And haven't really been too happy with the company. They sold to a company that's now based in Canada, so they're no longer US based. I had discussions back and forth with their CEO to try to get them to change their rates. They raised their rates 15%, and we're not providing service that I feel was adequate. We've been losing third-party subscribers through through HyperReach with over notification, no matter what I've done. I've tried to change things with them. I just haven't been happy with them. The service that actually reached out to me, cold called, telling me that they had just signed a contract with the state of Illinois, went right there, told me that there's something decent about them. If the state's going to look at them, I should at least look at them. So I looked into them, did a lot of research, did a three-way phone call with the salesperson, their COO, discussed my budgetary requirements, the number of people that were within the county, how many subscribers could be. They were flabbergasted that we were paying so much to the other service. I said, well, tell me how you can beat that. And they came in with a number that was a third of what they were. We went back and forth on annual increases. I said that as small as our budgets are here, I didn't want to, they agreed to, originally was a 3% increase, and they wouldn't start applying the increase until 3 years into the service. Received the contracts yesterday, and it reflected 3.5, and it didn't have anything in there about how it wouldn't start. I immediately sent an email back and says, hey, we discussed 3%. So I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but I got the smallest budget in the county, and every penny counts. And I said, and I see nowhere on here that we will not receive an increase until 3 years into the service. Within 10 seconds, I had an email back that had that corrected to 3%, and it's written right in the contract that says no increases until 2030. So I'm happy with the way their response has been so far. So I was more than willing to sign a contract with them. Although we just renewed our annual contract with HyperReach. It doesn't technically expire until April 30th of next year. Their service will continue until then, but this new company has also agreed to allow us free integration into their software. We can start using it immediately, and they will not bill us until April of next year, taking effect at May 1st, when is the end of what is HyperReach. So we will technically have two services and allow us to seamlessly transition between the two to get everybody to sign up. So that's, again, how I was able to save a significant amount off of what was my budget. So I think it's fiscally responsible to the residents, and it'll provide a better service. So that's why I had no problem changing companies.
Do you have anything to do with just the, our local telephone services,
In what regards?
service?
You mean cell service?
No, I'm talking about landline.
So landlines have the ability to sign up for this notification service, yes. If you have a landline at your house and you want to receive emergency notifications on the landline, they have to subscribe into it. There's no fee, it's free, but they have to sign up and use that number as a contact number for this, if that's what you're alluding to.
Well, I'm just plain service. They, I had a bad experience with Frontier,
Okay,
3 or 4 weeks ago. I lost service. I looked at what I had for call waiting, dial back, and I would get the dial tone, and by the time it was done, I'd get a busy signal, no matter who they were, wherever they were.
yeah, I have no, in fact, I haven't had communications with a landline
Well,
service.
anyway, I called them, and they came up, and they said they fixed it. It wasn't fixed, it was still that bad. I called them a second time, and they said, we'll come up if we have to fix something. It'll be a $150 charge for a service.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And then I wouldn't be surprised if that 150 turned into 150 plus X amount of dollars a minute that they're there.
Well, anyway, in the meantime, I looked at that number, took my cell phone and called them. It was a party in Champaign, Illinois, calling Sister Park, all right, but they were calling Double Y Sales, which is 4 houses on the other side of the street from me, but it came in on my line.
Oh, jeez.
So they came back and fixed it. There's a box, another block, another direction, but didn't even come back and tell me they were in town yet, they were back home. And, oh, wait a minute, I guess they did come back. I think the repairman said something they should have done. He says, oh, we're dealing with an old copper lines. We're waiting for new, different metal lines, but we don't want to touch these because we have to replace them twice. Now, what does that do to my service between now and then? Because this is the second time at least that I've had that big problem several years ago. In other words, we're just hanging on.
Right.
I think I'm going to go to Connection.
There you go. There's always an option, so.
I hope there's always, but I don't know if there always will be, but landlines anymore.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Scott.
No problem.
Thank you.
I'm sorry about
Yeah.
that.
See you, everybody.
Have a good
Yep.
day.
Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Good still when I was charging
Hi, Joe. Hi, Joe. Hey, Mike.
Morning.
Hey.
Have a seat over here if you like.
Somebody get here.
You,
No, this, and we've got this sort of here if you want to open it, here, looking at.
Hey.
So our notes say your information on pages 5, 43, 48, 49, 56. You have that book right in front of you. So if you just want to go through those or mention whatever high points you'd like to, please go right ahead. Or whatever you have prepared, whatever you want to speak to.
You don't.
I already brought my proposal.
Okay,
Where do you want to start?
wherever you would like, sir.
Well, I guess in order as it appears in the same way it appears in the budget, I think we can skip past my salary. I believe I'm 100% paid by the state. So basically, the projection for my 2 assistant salary for 2026 was 176, 399.82. I submitted a budget for 176,000 even, so that leaves about $400 that I don't need. In my 2 assistants who are still, when you compare them with their experience and assistants in other counties, we're still below just about every county that I'm aware of around here, because I'm constantly looking at what the fellow state's attorney's office is paying. So that's what I've submitted for a budget on them, which is a little below what was projected. There's no adjustments to the support staff, one of whom is entirely grant funded. Then the other, the projected amount that was in the proposed budget's exactly what I'm sticking with. Office expenses, publications are the same. The only area where there's a slight increase is education and dues, which is largely as a result of as some of you will recall last year, the appellate prosecutor, who used to be, I believe, $9,000 or $10,000 a year for a long time, they increased their contribution to $12,000. So that is what really is responsible for the overall small increase in that line item. And for those of you that had gotten the letter I submitted with that, other than the $12,000 buy-in with the appellate prosecutor, for instance, they not only do all of our appeals, but they're also a source of excellent advice. These guys are all longtime career prosecutors, and there's no problem that I've encountered that after talking to some of them over there, haven't been able to figure out. It's not often I need their advice, but when I do, they're an excellent resource. Also on the legal research front, Iroquois counties, we have Westlaw, but we're limited to what they call the Illinois only package, which means if I go on Westlaw to conduct my legal research, I can only look at Illinois case law statutes and the federal district and court of appeals, Seventh Circuit cases within Illinois. It is not uncommon that a legal issue can arise in a case where there is no Illinois case on point that's necessary to consult other states. A few years ago, I had a crim sex assault trial in another county before I came here, where it talk about being caught off guard. I would not have thought the validity of DNA would have been questioned in 2014 or 15. But when it comes to paternity DNA, there was not a single Illinois appellate or Supreme Court case on the subject. So I contacted the appellate prosecutor. They have the complete Westlaw. They can look at any state, all federal materials. They actually supplied me cases from Kentucky, Texas, from other states that allowed me to get around the various defense motions, one at trial, and this was affirmed on appeal. So appellate prosecutor they could be charging a lot more than $12,000. That's an extremely reasonable fee. All of the rest of it has to do with paying the ARDC fees of the attorney, which is $385 every year. And all attorneys have to complete 30 hours of continuing legal education every 2 years in order to stay licensed. Now, what I do, unlike some other counties, is a lot of people like to go to seminars and get to stay in hotels for a couple days and attend live CLE programs. What we're doing here is with the ISBA, myself and my 2 assistants, we are taking advantage of the 30 hours of CLE. You get 15 hours every year from ISBA. We're all doing it from our desks, so we're not incurring any mileage expenses, no lodging expenses or anything else. We are literally completing that 30 hours at our desk without leaving our office. So other than that, criminal prosecution is the same as it was in the 2025 budget. And that's really it.
On this page, on your letter, it says that the assistant department heads are paid for by a grant.
No, Brittany Hopes, who is my chief deputy, she's paid for by a grant that Jim Rowe, Kankakee County, had obtained. And then he's got a number of victim witness advocates. But apparently, his grant writer, who's a professional grant writer, did such a good job that he got more money than he actually needed. And we started paying Joyce in 2023. Her initial, I think she was being paid through a grant from Harbor House or something, and it was gonna run out. Well, me and Jim were talking, well, we might have to let her go, which was gonna be extremely difficult because one support staff person cannot possibly process the volume of paperwork that gets generated in the state's attorney's office. And Jim Rowe showed up, asked us if we needed some extra money. So that paid Joyce up until I had to let her go. And then it's been paying Brittany ever since. She is starting her, I believe 25 is her third year. And their grant writer person has already got the paperwork in. It's expected that grant will be renewed for another 3 years.
Okay. So that's a pretty reliable grant.
It is, and that's the thing about grants is these kind of grants that deal with, for instance, whether it's drug crimes, domestic violence crimes, sex abuse crimes, these are long-standing problems that aren't going away anytime soon. So those grants, especially ones like this, there are some people in the Kankakee State Attorney's Office that have been on grants for over 10 years. So it's just a question of renewing them. But yeah, I don't anticipate that going anywhere.
Okay. And I know your salary is state mandated. Is the assistant, the two assistants, is that a local decision or is that a state?
No, the state does not pay anything for assistant state's attorneys unless you happen to be in a county where there's a prison. And then they will give that county, depending on the size of the county, the size of the prison, sometimes money for another assistant or two to handle all of the crimes that occur inside that Department of Corrections facility.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Where, we talked yesterday about the legal fee or legal thing. Where, but I don't see that in his budget, I don't think.
It's on the county board
Level?
page.
Okay. I guess I'm just curious, you worked with Julie about properties that have clutter.
Yeah,
And you suggested, though, that we hire an outside attorney to deal with these matters.
yes, previously George Quanzo
Right.
did these back, whenever Rod Copus was county board chairman, it was in this general time frame. And you see, George does that for a number of municipalities here in the county.
Right. I just honestly have a hard time wanting to pay him 10 grand to do
That's,
4 or 5 cluttered property,
well, where do you get the idea that it's gonna be 10 grand?
because I talked to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so, and we have these 4 properties that are quasi, one is really, and Julie is gonna go through the process. But I'm just trying to figure out for the budgeting standpoint from here. Now, she was thinking in her report that we were gonna get some word she used about getting title to the land or possession of land.
Yes, if say somebody persists, so you got just an entrenched property owner who doesn't give a shit. He is not gonna care about Julie's letter, he's not gonna care about my letter. And George ultimately has to file an action, because he quoted me a rate of, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was. My understanding, talking to him based on his past bills,
Right.
filing the basic civil complaint that gets that process started isn't very complicated. These are not the kind of cases that end up in 3-week jury trials or
Right, agreed.
a year of civil discovery. What ultimately happens, if you got a guy who just isn't gonna clear this stuff up, not gonna listen to anybody, and we obtain a judgment against him because we're gonna have to pay, to get the stuff removed. We're gonna have to do that. if somebody decides, well, I'm not doing it, you wanna get rid of it, you pay for it, you do it. And they don't pay that bill. See, that's enforceable as a judgment, and then just like if you don't pay your taxes, ultimately, we can take their property from them.
But that's a long process. That's a lien on their property until it's sold, correct?
Well, we could force a sale to satisfy an outstanding judgment.
Well, I guess my question too is, I agree, all the stuff takes time and his register is click, 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 click.
Yes,
Can you help oversee, because if he told you a different amount than what, when I caught him in his office and asked him specifically about this, he blah, 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 and I said, George, I just need a ballpark figure, what's it gonna cost us per one of these if we take it to the limit? And he said, well, probably figure $2,000. So,
per property,
per property.
okay.
And so all I'm saying from somebody's budgeting, that's, right now we have 4, probably the 5th one. So that's $10,000 that we might need to find the money for. And I just didn't know what you could do to help out on the situation.
And I would add, because this has been a bugaboo for a long time.
Yeah,
And we have only ever since '06, and it does go back to Rod Copus, I remember. It involves a property on the Loda Road, and it's a trailer in a driveway that was drug in there in the middle of the night with a tractor. That's the only judgment we've ever gotten a piece of property ever, and Jim Devine did it. I don't ever remember.
It's way, way back
Yes.
before our time.
No, it was, I don't know if you were here, Charlie, but I think you were. We got a judgment. It's on the Loda Road and nothing's ever been done. And don't they have to be renewed? Does that have to be renewed or does it run with the property forever?
That I don't know. That's not an area that I've ever been involved in as a criminal prosecutor. I don't know the answer to that question.
Well, we heard-
We stopped in the middle of that. We ran out of money to do it.
Well, we had a demolition order. And we did get the order, but we never did anything with it because you're correct, we didn't have any money to have it torn down. And some people thought we could go in there, we're way off track here. People thought we could go in there and let some junker tear it apart, and we can't do that. We need a demolitions person with insurance and blah, 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 blah.
Some
I think this is gonna come up
people
more
wanted
and
to do that
more.
today, but we'd have to start all over again, I think.
Well, I don't know, that's what my question was, is it still a valid judgment? I don't know.
I heard it was
Some
start
judge,
all over situation.
And that I don't know. That's an area that, yeah, that's, like, George has been doing this stuff for decades. And if the cost is $2,000 to ultimately get a property in compliance with whether it's a building, an old mobile home or refrigerators in the front yard, that's not a whole lot of money in today's, economy. But see, it's
It is
recoverable.
us.
Well, yeah, but when we sell the property, we recoup all of George's attorney fees.
Well,
If-
that still
yeah.
isn't a thing of it. The problem is, I see it, is it's a safety hazard. It's halfway turned over like this in the driveway. I don't know what it'd take to fall over, but if any kid was involved in this, it could be a big problem. I drive by it a lot, and I flinch every time I go by it.
We're gonna have more of these issues because talking to the Kurt yesterday, the treasurer is talking about properties and have more or less abandoned mobile homes with no VIN numbers on them, they're so old. So that means you can't do anything to sell them, you can't do this or that, so they'll be left on the property that we need to clean up and do something with. So we're just gonna have quite a bit of expense on cleaning these areas up. And they're looking at ways to save money doing it, so maybe you can help. with
Well, the thing is, that when you
bills
get a property owner who's non-responsive to letters and even, because I've seen George with some of these guys in court every now and then, and they're feet draggers. Well, they'll start out, hey, I want time to hire an attorney. 6, 8 months goes by, these people are never gonna afford an attorney. Yes, it can take some time to get these things moving, but, the county can ultimately, if it wants to clear that property out, in many of these cases, it will be on the county to hire whatever company it is to come in and remove the offending objects. This has been going on a long time before I was state attorney, and this has been an area where there's been no enforcement, from my understanding, for many years.
Right there.
And I'm trying to get into place a process where And keep in mind, somebody like George, who's been doing this for decades, he can do this stuff in his sleep. It's not inherently complicated stuff when you know how to do it. But it's the kind of thing that if we want to go after these properties, we're probably going to be initially on the hook for the attorney fees and then whatever the cost of cleanup is.
Right.
When you say it's not inherently complicated, that gives me hope that perhaps, let me back up, when we come down to balance this budget at the end of the day and we're looking for $30,000, $2,000 is a lot of money. So, when you say it's not inherently complicated, is there an opportunity for one of your assistants to go to one of the ICL classes and become versed in real estate and save us that money with George?
Not really, it's a time commitment, and I've said before, I wish everybody would come. I know you visited a court, Judge Sable's felony public defender call. I have, my two assistants, when they get here in the morning, are usually getting some paperwork done before they go up to court. Many times they are in court almost up to lunchtime. Then there's the afternoon component. There is really not the time, unfortunately, to get them involved. When you look at the numbers, and I showed you, and I think I showed the chairman, some of our filing cabinets. I don't think a lot of people understand what the time commitment of my two assistants are. Jennifer Mickensberger is often here till 6:30 at night doing cleanup work 5 days a week. And she's been doing that since she started in the office in March of 23. There's only so many resources. And I realized we have a number of outside counsel, but the state attorney's office didn't have anything to do with the Ameren situation. That counsel was brought in having nothing to do with anything the state attorney's office did. And it's the same thing with the labor negotiator. My understanding is some people were dissatisfied with the previous attorney doing that. I found the county a really good labor negotiator who pretty much does all the big counties in, the northeastern part of Illinois. I wish I could say, where to get this money from, but it's a question of how much does the county want to go after the worst of the worst delinquent property owners versus incurring the expense to do that.
Maybe we can ask you to help us save money with keeping you in the loop with what projects we're talking about with George and just kind of help oversee some of our expenditures.
Well, I would be working, as I've talked with Julie before, of identifying I think if we go after, say, the first 3 or 4, the longest outstanding people who are not going to respond to anything,
Right.
kind of make an example out of them.
Yep.
Once the word gets out, oh, wait a minute, the county for 20 years hasn't been doing any enforcement effort. Now all of a sudden they're doing this and they're taking people's property. I'm hoping that might have some motivation on the less entrenched.
Does anybody have any more questions on the remaining pages that are in Mr. Quinlan's budget projections? Okay, thank you, Mr. Quinlan. And Judge Sable,
Yes, sir.
good morning.
Good morning. Everybody doing this morning?
Very well, and you?
Good.
Depends on what you say.
Yeah. Not much to my budget, so. Let me know if you have questions.
Your chief deputy is, I'm just trying to touch Jackie Lehman, that's what I.
Got a few new work downstairs.
Right. And how many bailiffs do you have? Of course.
Going on, 6.
6 bailiffs?
Yeah, some might work a couple days a month,
Right.
probably at the most.
Is the,
They're all retired.
is the chief deputy's salary, is that mandated by the state at all, or?
No.
Then to come up with that, looks like maybe a 6% or give or take wage increase.
It's just based on, kind of based on cost of living and number of years' experience that she has. I think it's probably in line with whatever others are getting.
There's 5% increase in there for Jackie's salary for this year.
I think that's actually the number that you said.
Yeah,
A bunch of
yeah,
what
you
she
just
does
upped
actually
it,
not
yep,
bad.
you
Yeah,
upped it
what was
in
in
there.
there?
So anywhere from 3 to 5 is usually what was stuck in there or left in there from last year. Yeah, that's okay.
Some of these numbers, it's hard to predict exactly what's gonna happen, and I mean, obviously, the chief deputy salary is gonna be constant. Bailiff salary varies, if there's a slow day and we don't need 2 bailiffs, then I'll only have 1 bailiff come in. If there's a jury trial going on and the bailiff needs to be there 3 days in a row for a trial, that might add to it. In the summer, we usually save a little money on bailiffs if there's only 1 judge there.
Yeah, as far as your salary is concerned, how does that get paid just for the committee? So you could just renew, refresh, how?
I get paid through the state, I'm a state employee.
Okay,
This is just to ask how it's working out. Special attorney hire many years ago. We hired a Joe, somebody, for Anthony, to reduce that, and then
He did.
now it's somebody else.
It is, and with 3 public defenders now, that, I don't think I used that, I didn't use anything year to date, I haven't used any of that, because we now have 3 public defenders.
And they're
Official
being
Lance and,
Jamie Boyd
Jamie
and
Boyd
Charles
and
Lauer.
Charles Lauer.
And
So
Charles is not a
I think he gets paid out.
employee, he gets paid,
Lance's.
yep, he gets paid out of Lance's, fund, which would be Fund, 250.
What was the third one? Lance and Charles were together, and
Boyd, Jamie Boyd.
Jamie Boyd. Okay.
And it's actually Lance is the public defender, Jamie is the assistant,
Yeah,
and Charles is the special.
And we have, Lance and Jamie Boyd have a lot of years' experience, and we really have some good public defenders right now.
Good.
Yeah, so that with, the 3 of them, obviously this year I have budget, I haven't had to dip into the special attorney hire at all.
That hasn't good. Okay, good. That worked out good.
They used to come up when we just had 2 public defenders, they used to come up if you have a case that they conflicted out for some reason, or if you have a case that involves 3 co-defendants, they obviously each have to have their own attorney. But we haven't run across that yet. With having 3 of them.
And it got to be kind of pricey.
Yes.
Here.
And it's tough to find people to do it too.
any other comments for Mr. Sable?
Court services is kind of a moving target to that. When somebody asks for a fitness evaluation, that's something that comes out of that line item. There's other evaluations that come out of there, so that's a kind of a tough one to predict exactly what it's gonna be.
We didn't see in Mr.
I don't understand the comment of court services, anyway, what kind of services you talking?
If you have would be in criminal cases, because I do both criminal and civil. So if it's a criminal case and you have a defendant that needs a fitness evaluation or evaluation to see if criminal, they call it criminal responsibility evaluation, to see if there's any defense there as far as an insanity defense or something like that. That comes out of that budget line item in order to pay for a fitness evaluation which has to be conducted by a psychiatrist.
Oh, is that-
We typically use Dr. Simone. Usually gets them done fairly quickly and that's the cheapest we found.
Should have been a question for Mike Quinlan. We saw that guy in Marion that's defined as, he's never been to trial, he's sexually dangerous,
Oh.
dangerous, he's, I
There's either sexually dangerous or sexually violent.
think it's dangerous, he's been there for a year.
Or does that sound right?
Anyway, that would be in the state's attorneys. We have to get an evaluation. You don't, that doesn't come out of
No.
yours, okay. Every year he has to be evaluated and keep him there.
Oh.
It was on it was probably on the state's attorney's thing.
Any other comments? Thank you, sir.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
You as well. Appreciate it. You're welcome.
I think, right, we track down some of those property owners, make an example, even just one.
Yeah, you're the unlucky one.
Mhm.
That's bad, got it. Well,
Pick the card.
I know, right?
It,
Sure, it's like that.
I just have.
But he's only got two, right?
And you know, they involve about a 10-minute hearing.
Yeah.
And we
So,
do that for
Lance
half a dozen.
probably won't be here until, his time because he comes from Paxton. Did you
Okay.
want me to go over like the grants fund to fill in some time?
Yeah,
Okay, so
I mean,
that's.
that's 5, you've got 5 minutes, I mean, if you.
Yeah, that's about all it'll take. On page 58, and the grants fund, I do have all the departments weigh in on this fund as it holds grants for almost two of our departments. You're gonna be seeing a lot of the expenses fall off as ARPA expenses won't show after the 5-year mark. I filled in the ARPA numbers, of course, we're expecting nothing for revenues. And as far as ARPA expenditures go, we just have some leftover cleanup, until the end of 2026 is when it all needs to be expended out, which it's already been allocated, so that shouldn't be an issue. Some of the other funds in there are the state opioid response, which is the SOR grant, that's through the sheriff's department. The Walmart grant is through the sheriff's department. The Donovan Trust, that is another sheriff's department. Mary Helen Trust is not necessarily a grant, but we treat it as a grant and it also comes for the sheriff's department. The other ones listed on there for the sheriff's department are SCAP, the CO grant, which is it's usually pretty minimal and it's every so many years that they can apply for that. So there's gonna be nothing in that line item, but the national opioid settlement, we're still receiving funds for that, so we're expecting those revenues from the sheriff's department, which shall be expended out in your expenses below. And then another grant that's listed in there is the Public Defender Services grant. It's not a grant, it's actually through Kankakee County, which we treat it as a grant per their request. And we do have reporting that we need to complete and get to them. But that grant allows for any additional costs that the public defenders see that they need funding for, such as, I think additional laptop, he has paid additional attorney fees out of there. There's been some, there's been some examinations and some investigation fees that he has paid out of those funds. Let's see here, the Illinois Court Tech Modernization Fund, that is a grant that actually Judge Bartucci, she oversees, and it gets submitted for, and she's done that now for 3 years, I believe, and it's just to better automate and update the technology in the courtrooms. So, whatever she generally puts in for, it gets expensed out rather quickly. The grant that Mike Quinlan was talking about, the victim witness grant, that, he kind of gave me an overview of that. That's through Kankakee as well. I report to Cheryl Chamberlain quarterly with those requests, and then she cuts a check and reimburses us for Brittany's position. And I've corrected Mike a few times. Brittany is actually the victim witness coordinator. His other employee is the chief deputy. So Rosenfeld is his chief deputy, and Brittany is labeled as the victim witness coordinator through the Kankakee County grant. And I think that's all different departments on there that receives the grants. We're not expecting to get, the hazard mitigation is completed. Let's see. Yep, the American Rescue Plan, we're not getting any revenues from that. Carver House, that is over. This is now the victim witness one. The tribal funds is over. I'm looking to see if they're gonna open it up again, and if they do, I'll apply again for it, because it's one of those that we can utilize for any of our building facilities, so that was useful.
So that victim witness grant, $32,000. Back to page 5 on this. So which one is Brittany, the chief deputy?
Well, on your,
So she's the witness.
so she is going to be listed as a chief deputy with Rosenfeld, because her salary gets reallocated out completely because it's paid for 100%. So let me look at my sheet here.
And this is the one with Jim Rowe from Kankakee, and that's, what are we calling that, the victim
It's
witness?
the victim witness grant, so it is federal, it's a federal pass-through, so it's a federal grant that Kankakee receives that they pass through us that we have to report on. So I also report on it for the CIPR and the CEPA audits that are included with our
So,
annual audit with the Clifton Mars.
so Rosenfeld, what's her first name?
Cynthia?
And she's the chief deputy. And how long's she been there, do you know? Just
A matter of months. I mean, I think it's less than 6 months.
She's coming right up on 6 months.
Yeah.
So there's 2.
Yes, he has two assistant state's attorneys and 2 office gals, and the one is the chief deputy and one is the victim witness coordinator.
And 32,000 of that 40,950 is from a grant.
Well, let's see. Okay, so the grant person is Brittany Hopes, and her salary, the 40,000 is just for Cynthia, because it doesn't show both of their salaries in that chief deputy line, because Brittany's is allocated out, so it's not gonna be expensed. It'll be expensed out of the grant fund.
what is her salary?
Well, as of right now, what I'm hearing from Kankakee County and what Mike has requested, they're off in the amount. So what is requested for Brittany is a $47,250 salary, so those will have to be adjusted after July first, and I get a better number. But it'll be adjusted in the grants fund and it'll reflect to show that on my salary sheet that I'll get together for you guys for your
And-
next meeting.
And the requested amount for Cynthia Rosenfeld, the chief deputy, is $49.50.
Yes, and she was hired in March of 25, and Brittany was hired in January of 25.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Cable.
Good morning.
There's a copy of what we're looking at right in front of you, pages 11 and 52. So if you want to, or begin however you wish.
It's 11, right?
Right.
Okay, want to preface this, what I have proposed, I'm not sure any of you would be aware, and I just recently became aware that this legislation was going to pass. It has passed. I'm going to have a conversation with Judge Sable and Judge Bartucci about it here shortly. But something, if you Google it, called the FAIR Act, Illinois, relates to public defender services on a statewide level that's being managed. Now, I don't know if Judge Sable mentioned this to you in his presentation or not, if you've ever heard anything like this before.
No.
You may have heard of something called the Safety Act, which is the Pretrial Detention Act. Media likes to give names to these kind of things. The FAIR Act is designed for public defender clients to have the same advantages as the state's attorney has, or salaries to be equal in the public defender and expense public defender budgets to be relatively equal to the state's attorney. I just printed a copy of the House bill, which passed both houses, and as all of you know, when something is Governor Pritzker's idea and it passes both houses, it is not long before it's going to be in the law books. It's this thick. I'm going to give copies to Judge Sable and Judge Bartucci this morning. And what we need to figure out is what the effect is. There seem to be a different set of rules for counties with over 3 million, counties with over 1 million, and counties under 35,000. Okay? So everything we're talking about today could be changed within this budget year, and so forth. I just want to preface that. It would give the state, there's going to be an office of state public defender, basically, I don't use the term czar, but someone who has authority over state public defender services, either out of Springfield, I presume, or out of Chicago. And there's going to be a county public defender appointed. There's going to be certain protocols that have to be approved at the state level when a new county public defender is appointed. My brief review of this book is that it seems to be there's some leeway for counties like ours that have a public defender, a part-time public defender system as opposed to a full-time public defender system. I want to see if Judge Sable agrees with that, if Judge Cunnington out of Kankakee agrees with that, and as more clarification comes out. I don't know if it's the intent of this rule that smaller counties like us can continue with a part-time public defender system, but ask for assistance from the state when bigger cases like the 3 murder cases that we have pending in this county right now come up. Hopefully, if you enjoy the way we're doing this now, for lack of a better term, if you think that's the most effective way, it continues that way. I believe all of the funds, if you have a state-appointed public defender, are provided by the state.
the state's gonna fund this whole thing. I don't know if that's gonna equate to administrative staff, paralegals, and the like, and or the public defender's office would be mandated to look very similar to the state's attorney's office, and the state would fund any differential. I really think that is possible, and that may be great for the county from a budgetary perspective. It may take a fair amount off of your obligation. What I'm telling you is there's gonna be big changes. This bill has passed both houses and it's coming. So the only thing we gotta figure out is what we're doing based on our county size.
So you've read the bill.
I read it.
So is it a state mandated salary for public defenders or for
Yes.
counties like our size?
It's gonna be 95% of the state's attorney's salary is, and I believe the state is going to either fund the differential or fund it in its entirety. Again, I am unsure if there is exceptions for counties under 35,000 people that use a part-time public defender system.
Okay.
But the state's taking a lot more control. What they don't want, when you have Cook County, they got, I'm just giving an example, DuPage County. There's 50 public defenders in their office that are excellent defense attorneys at the murder trial, major felony, major drug conspiracy level. There aren't 50 attorneys in our 3-5 county area for those kind of cases. That's the reality. And when you have, and this kind of goes into the budget I proposed, which did not reflect this ever coming into effect. I'm assuming for the purpose of my proposal that this, but we can operate functionally the same way and hopefully maybe get some help from the state if we need it. But when you have 3 murders, child porn cases, you get like what you know, some of those kind of things, that is a load on a part-time public defender's office. It's a load on a full-time public defender's office. Again, a private defense attorney, if I handled a murder case like one of the 3 we have here, my fee would be 6 figures for that case alone. And that's not me saying I'm a big time. No good lawyer would be less. You can take whoever you've heard of in Kankakee, get them in here, they'll tell you it would be less. You can take the best people out of Champaign or Bloomington. I know all these people that would not be less. So when you have that case and then you pile Jamie Boyd's 50 or 60 cases on him and my 50 or 60 other cases on him, that's kind of what you're getting here. So now that's an aberration. I remember we had the Gilman truck stop shooting. I think it was the Condon case, before I came involved, and I don't remember a lot of murder cases. Alex O'Brien told me maybe there was one every 6-7 years, I don't know. I work in Ford County too, and I haven't had one that's been tried as a murder case in 10 or 12 years. But, you know, that's kind of what we've run into since I took the appointment there. There's been three homicide cases. So I just want to kind of give you an idea of what some of the challenges when we are, and we got state issues coming up that could take this. I've asked for a 20% raise for myself and Jamie Boyd. We have, so you all know how we're kind of handling it. There are 4 public defenders paid in some manner from some fund from my office. Myself is the lead public defender. Jamie Boyd is the assistant public defender, the 2 most of those. I used our public defender grant money from the state to hire an attorney named Neely Regas out of Kankakee. She was gracious enough to do this for like $18,000 a year and handle the juvenile call to keep me off that call. I'm not, frankly, as good at the juvenile call as I am in the felony and basic criminal defense. She's more experienced at it and was able to get the state funds to do that. It seemed like a good use of the funds. And all the judges agreed, both in Kankakee and Judge Sable and Judge Bertucci. So I really am happy about the way she's been able to come in and without using the general county budget, help in that area. She's been great. Chuck Lauer is kind of conflicts counsel and has also handled the juvenile all in the same way and done the more simple driving on license suspended stuff. So myself and Attorney Boyd aren't bothered with smaller problems. Without speaking for Judge Sable, he had the opportunity to speak today, but I think he would echo me. He wants myself and Attorney Boyd, who is a former state's attorney in Kankakee County. He's very qualified to handle any kind of case. He wants us handling complex cases and to put our focus on that. I think that's the best use of our abilities here. So essentially what I'm asking for is that level of raise. Our raises were 5% last year. This is about a half-time job for me, but it could be a full-time job. The public defender clients are, how do I put this tactfully, whether it's popular politically or not, they are entitled to the same defense that a millionaire is entitled to in terms of constitutional protections. We can't say, oh, it's a public defender client, we're not gonna investigate. We can't say we're not gonna have meetings. We can't say we're not gonna look for experts. We can't say we're not gonna read the transcript of every hearing 50 times. Because if that happens, Judge Sable's instructions to me are, when cases go to trial, we did the Art Jensen murder case, said you do the jobs, this doesn't come back, and we have to pay for this stuff twice. We were able to do that successfully in that case. He was convicted, I did my best, but we did the job right, and the appellate court said there was no errors. I'm proud of that for a county that doesn't have a lot of regular jury trials, let alone when we have one, first one in a few years, it's a murder case. Proud that we were able to do that and there were no structural errors in that trial, that there were no procedural errors in that trial, there were not reversal. And so we can do that kind of work, but we have to do that kind of work on those serious cases. So the other thing that's made it a little bit difficult and where the special hire or the special fund and is the Pretrial Fairness Act or Safety Act, it's otherwise known. Right now, we've got a system where I'm here about a day and a half a week personally, usually every Tuesday and some combination Thursday or Friday. But we've got remote hearings for detentions. If somebody's going to be held in the jail, that could come up at any time, and it takes all three of our attorneys to be on call. Judge Sable and Judge Bertucci have been very gracious in allowing for Zoom hearings, and the Supreme Court rules allow us to do that. So that's worked, but that's what the job entails. When you have 50, 100 felonies pending at once, that is a full-time job. And right now I've got probably 50 to 60, including 2 of the murders, and I think Jamie Boyd has probably a similar number with 1 murder. One of the 3 murder cases there as well. So that's, I hope I've given you an idea of what every one of our 4 PDs are doing. We do have the library there that's been allocated. I wanted to speak to that a minute. We've got a computer, and a printer, and copiers that have been there that we can go in and meet with clients. We haven't decorated the room or got office hours regularly yet, but at least we've got a place we can go to in conference. It's in the back of the conference rooms upstairs on the 2nd floor of the courthouse. But it's locked. Only the PDs have access to it. That's one of the things that the state law wants done. They want a PD office available to just as the state's attorney's office is available. So we've at least taken steps with what we've had to get that done. So what I wanted to do today was tell you kind of what each attorney's doing, how we're designating the roles, what our caseload is, how we are trying to advance the things with the law library office and that. Has every goal I ever had in mind when I took this job been reached yet? No. But I think we've taken some steps, some good steps toward doing it. And as for the salaries, again, this is simply what attorneys get paid when I understand this is a part-time job, and I'm not saying this whatever out of any kind of hubris, but Jamie Boyd is worth double that money and easily more, and so am I. And it's just that if you equate it to a full-time salary, that's just what the marketplace bears. You're seeing attorneys out of law school make somewhere near this figure. And that's not in big private practice firms. That's just what the job is.
If we break down this line item, your department head salaries, which you are,
Right.
is Jamie the assistant department head or the other three people that this?
Jamie would be the assistant department head. He's, as I
Where's the other two then?
It's a grant, I understood.
Charles is special.
I believe Charles is out of Judge
Special
Staples'
hire.
buzz as special hire counsel. He has an $18,000 a year salary from the county budget, as I understand it.
That's Charles is the special
Yes,
attorney hire.
that's his 18, and I pay another 11,000 a month to him out of the PD special grant budget.
Hold on, I'm confused.
Right, this is
So
confusing.
that first line.
I'm
item-
sorry.
No, it's the report that I.
Yes, because Jen Sable was just in here, there was 7,000 in the special hires on whatever
Yeah,
page that
so-
was on.
Donna, let me clarify.
Go
The
ahead.
department head salary of the 250, which is the public defender, is where Lance is paid out of. The assistant department head salary is where Jamie Boyd is paid out of. And the special attorney hire line, 665,220, is where Charles Lauer is paid out of. The court special attorney hire is if they need to utilize those funds because there's a conflict of interest with our public defenders that we currently have and they need to hire outside. Since receiving the public defender grant funds, Lance has added additional funding to the public defenders and hired on a fourth, which is Neely Regis, what she was speaking to prior.
So they're both coming out of 66520?
No,
Just Charles.
Just
Yep,
Charles.
Neely is coming out of the grant fund,
how much is
and
the
there are
grant fund?
also additional funds that Charles is receiving.
So Charles is receiving, or it was budgeted in 19 out of the public defender and then or
Okay.
7,500 out of the,
No,
because they're both,
the
I'm sorry.
like in the past, when there's been a conflict of interest with public defenders, I believe Lance, your firm took on some of those cases, and that's what the courts would pay for.
Okay, so it's a totally separate.
It's totally separate, yeah, it's
I got you now.
Right, if you look at, I'm sorry, page
58, which we just talked about, is the grants fund. There's that public defender services fund. That is the grant that Lance has been using to set up the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Lance, but to set up the room and to pay for the fourth public defender that's handling the juvenile cases. And it also allows for additional payments to Charles Lauer for his services.
I see, public defender services.
So it hasn't ever changed, this public defender services line, as far back as I've researched and in the 8 years I've been here, has been there paying two part-time attorneys, the department head and the assistant, as well as the third special attorney hire that was utilized for whatever the public defender utilized them for at the time. so.
So this $50,000 that's budgeted will be used, grant money, which will be used entirely by the public defender's office in the county. And how do you break that down, then?
Grant money, you mean?
Yeah, and the
The
grant money,
$50,000.
I'm not sure if we've received the amount that we're gonna inquire for 2026 yet.
We have, and it was $82,000 the last 2 years. Now, I don't know if this new law is going to change that, say, hey, you got the opportunity to use this thing. But what we've done with the 82 in the past is about 19's gone to Neely. An additional 2,500 a month has gone to me, an additional, I want to say 1,500 a month. Or
Yeah.
roughly it's gone to Jamie Boyd, an additional 1,000's gone to Lauer. We've spent roughly about I'm just running broad numbers
Yeah.
here. 5 to 6 on private investigators or books for everybody and other things. Judge Cunnington approves this budget solely, and he also tells us if we don't use it, it's going to Kankakee, and he's very explicit about that.
Yeah.
Because that money's split between those two counties. And so that's what we've done, and the purpose of that money, again, was to account for the additional work that was gonna have to be done under the Safety Act, when we had to have detention hearings on 48 hours notice. And so that's where that goes. And candidly, I don't know if Mr. Boyd has additional staff at his office, but I do. And I've, at my own expense, and my office's expense, have every client of mine, whether it's a private hire or a employee hire, gets the same treatment. You can ask the judges, the files look the same. My summaries look the same. I treat them the same, and I have my staff at my expense work on that. I've never, ever, I mean, that 2,500 basically just to me, just supplements the staff time I have with my 2 paralegals working on these cases to get me prepared. So it's, that's what we do with that. I hope the funding continues into next year and that we have the option of, if you feel it's in the best interest of the board and if Judge Sable feels it's in the best interest to continue this part-time system, that we get that money and can use it that way. If it's in the best interest to use the state resources, then, I understand that as well. I just need to know more about how it's gonna affect our county. Iroquois is under 35, right?
Yes.
Well, that's what I,
27.
that's what I presumed. I didn't even.
It's listed as 27,000.
So when I inquire of the appellate defender's office or whoever becomes the power in this situation, and I just know that I can ask, hey, what's gonna happen to us? Being here, can we operate the same way? Or are we subject to this?
So if we institute, whatever we institute in the 2026 budget, we're subject to seeing this implemented mid-budget year. And we might be making adjustments to the budget mid-year. Okay.
Potentially. Governor Pritzker has not signed this yet. I printed it off yesterday and it has passed both houses, but it doesn't have his signature.
Yeah, I think they're projecting it to start for the FY27 year, which I don't know more specifically. I'm assuming that would go by the state
Is that what you've
for
heard?
a year, yeah.
Because I'm hearing different things.
Yeah.
The 11th Circuit judges, Judge Field in particular out of Ford, was advised of it at a recent judges meeting, and yesterday they directed it. I was aware they were talking about it, but I didn't know it was that close. And he said this is gonna happen. So it would make sense that they would not disrupt a full budget year and that they would give you some time to prepare for this. I don't anticipate any constitutional challenges or anything like that, so we like the Safety Act. I think it'll go through pretty easily.
So it's 95% of the state's attorney's salary. Does it say in there what the county match is? Or what the county,
It's none. I think they pay for it.
100%?
I think it works just like the sheriff and the state's attorney, as I read it, is it's gonna be fully funded.
That's my understanding
I'm
too.
just unclear on some of the qualifications, which Lance had already talked about.
Is he elected position then, or what?
No, it'd be an appointed position. by the state appellate defender's office. It would not even be by the county judge.
The news already,
The dues are.
right, okay.
Because my guess is, I don't think the county judges are gonna have, like having to ask the state office who their public defender is. And, I'm thinking small counties particularly might fight this if they have qualified attorneys. There are some baseline requirements. You gotta have at least 5 years of experience. You gotta have demonstrated criminal law experience, which means you're typically gonna be dealing with somebody that's worth, say, at Champaign County or Kankakee County or McLean County, or someone that's got a 15-person prosecuting office or public defending office or both. Because that's the only place you're gonna get that kind of experience.
So you don't think you'll have a chance at that, based on those?
Oh, I would have a chance in it.
Oh,
my-
we didn't mention Fort County either. You said, okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've got 20 years of criminal defense experience, so it's you know, no, I don't think it'd be an issue, and I would hope they would listen to the circuit court judges as to the skill and capabilities of who they want to work with. I don't want to have a doomsday scenario where they wouldn't do that. That would really, you know,
That wouldn't be in the interest of the county.
wouldn't be in the interest of the county. It would make for a very choppy court system. I don't think, again, I don't want to accept, I say this not to sound an alarm. I don't know if it is an alarm. I say it just to advise you that big changes could be coming to public defenders. They have always had I say always, in the last 10 to 15 years, they've had a system available that Ford County utilizes with the 95% state salary requirement that is supplemented by the state. But you have to also have an assistant hired, a full office, and there's other expenses that go with that. And I think that's why some of the smaller counties like Iroquois have never really gotten behind that. Ford went to it about 7-8 years ago. I don't know. Like I said, I talked to some of the attorneys in the southern counties, like a lot smaller, and they still use this system. It obviously, they know it's still used because they mentioned it in counties 3,500 where there's no full-time public defender in this new law. So you guys aren't outliers by any stretch of the imagination. It's just something that's gonna have to be dealt with. But that's my proposal for the next year, assuming things are running for this next fiscal year the same as they have. I'll do everything I can to, I have a good relationship. We worked well together last year with the public defender in Kankakee County. He said, I'm not trying to take any of your funds away from you on the grant. So if we can cooperate through that process with Judge Cunnington and PD and Kankakee, those grant funds help a lot.
Yes.
And we've got to be able to get attorneys here. We've got to be able to get good attorneys here. Our PD clients deserve it. Our county deserves it. We don't want to be doing cases twice. We don't want to be everything we do up here, the appellate court's looking at and saying, don't know what we're doing, and get it sent back. We don't want that. So that stuff helps. And we have good people here that I'm happy with. So
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Let's take a 5-minute recess, please.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. How are you? It's hot out there. But I complain all winter, so I'm not like it. You doing good? It's early.
That's
Yeah, but I have to wonder, how's he been? And I come cool to do showers. Like I said a second ago, I complain all winter, so I can't complain in the summer.
Well, that's it, and I'd rather
Yeah.
get this, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
That's kind of what I've been doing.
I saw you, yeah, that's as possible, hard it is just to do it, because once it's done, it's done. And then that way too, you can see the blanks, because sometimes in two, somebody started mid-year, or
I can do
they
this.
quit mid-year, and you know, what I mean, it all
Yeah.
impacts the, what the
Because
number
that's
goes.
exactly, I think, what happened with state's attorney.
Right.
As you see, last year was
Yeah.
45, well, that was gone.
Yeah,
So we have somebody new that's only been there a couple of months, that's the difference.
exactly, yeah.
And that's what that sheet would show, it would still have Donna on there, it would show what her salary was,
Yeah.
now she's at zero.
Right,
Now
yeah,
you have to
yeah.
higher, so,
Yeah.
We have this judges.
yeah, just, I was going off of memory, trying to jot down all the staff.
These people that work sheets,
Just
like,
County.
what, or who, you know, who or what, especially like assessment, not picking on them, but they have 5 people in there, I think it is. And
We could get.
you know, who does what, Mia does a good job of departmentalizing each one, and have their specialties, and that's what you gotta do, and then you cross-train them once they get good, you cross-train them.
Can make it.
No, thank you.
And then once we get through this, like I think Joe said it yesterday,
Mhm.
either after or before the revenue page,
Mhm.
there is an actual page of all staff
Yeah.
and all their salaries on there too, so. And she has them broken out by department, so you're not just seeing a list of names, you'll have each of them by department too. But I think she waits until she gets all the salary requests, then she puts it together.
Right, well, we need to talk about that.
I can't.
Some of these jumps are, this is hard to compare. But some of these other ones, people are asking for 11%.
Thank you for your assistance.
Not a problem, anytime.
Mr. Tom Latham, good morning. How are you?
Are you back in a minute, maybe?
Oh, that's right,
Yeah,
we
she'll
were
be
missing
back.
one.
She was-
Yeah.
Yeah, the probation department is funded quite well.
Yes.
Is your salary come from the state?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I should say it's reimbursed, so yeah, yes.
Is there some formula that they use to,
No, right now we're 100% funded.
so whatever we ask for?
Well, I have to justify increases and anything above like say 8% would take further justification. Anything below that, they would fund. And as you do, probably take
You don't have to say twice.
that. Second time would be different too.
Yeah.
But we're fortunate in the fact that the circuit, 18 years ago, that we don't have salary subsidy. A lot of counties have, they give you $12,000 for a salary. So if they're making 70, you're getting 12. Well, we were able to get rid of all those in the circuit. So everybody's 100%. That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
We're kind of lucky, because in this county, a lot of counties have the subsidy positions that are way outdated. That 12 grants was put in place 30 years ago, right? But it meant something.
Start any programs on.
Nothing further. I assume probably next month. So start negotiating.
That's crazy, commissions. That's the minute I'm trying to change things in the budget.
Our EOC attorney's
last 3 years in a row. Yeah, like one of the things, they can't remember the last contract.
It seems to go really good. We have a new representation for the county.
I didn't see you that often.
I figured you would say.
I should call her.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so, Mr. Latham, if you would just review what Doug asked the question so that Donna can hear the first question, everybody, how your salary is determined and what the threshold is, and just briefly again say what you did before.
Yeah, as you see on here, the department head salary, their supervisor in the office, and the probation salary line item.
Which page are you in?
Ryan, general fund, 240.
Nice.
So page
And those salaries, the contract expires November 30th. That's why between Jill and I, it's a guesstimate right now. And actually, Jill will talk, because my guesstimate's coming a little over yours. But whatever, at the end, the salary reimbursement for those two line items will be 100%. So we're 100% funded, so whatever that comes in, we sell that contract. And what the actual line item is, we fund. If there were some drastic change to that, obviously I'd be talking to Jill, but my conversations with the state, that we're in good shape right now. And that's been the case for a number of years now.
Yeah.
So that's why the only difference in this, obviously the general fund or the general fund that we have this year is I broke out the standby pay from the salary, which is not any more money. That used to be included in their salary. We're just
Standby pay.
right. The third one doesn't have a line number.
Right, so when we pay it out, it comes out of their probation officer's salary pay. So and now that you're explaining it, maybe I do need to create a separate line for it, is what you're saying?
I just thought it helped.
Okay.
I always feared that we build the next percentage on a salary that included the standby pay, and it should be broken out.
Okay.
So 3.5% based on the salary, it just makes it clear for me, where we don't, because they get standby pay for being on call.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you're looking at me like, what's standby pay? They're on call 24/7 for if a juvenile's detained.
Right.
And so they get, like, I forget what it's, $600 a month. And that was in the salary line item here. I like breaking it out just because I'm afraid I'll build it on that.
Mhm.
And then you add this, then it kind of just wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah, so. Yeah. The only difference in this budget is you see $6,000 for a vehicle. And let me explain this is, I want to get a new car next year for the airport office. In our special funds, our probation fund, I cannot purchase a vehicle out of that fund. It's not allowed. In the ops fund, if we collect it, we no longer collect, it's a $40,000 balance. I was $40,000 balance still sitting in that fund. We no longer collect it. It'll go away after your price right now. We're not putting it. I want to use that 40. I guesstimate about 46,000 for an Explorer. That's what we bought Kinky a short time ago. That's what it costs us. And that's what I wanted. So I'm asking for $6,000, which I don't think is going to cost any more money at the end of the year because we're always under budget. But I want to specifically put that in our line item just so it's out there. But I think we're always under enough.
Yeah.
But that probably is not going to happen. I'm not asking for $6,000. That's why I reflect that,
How old's your current one?
2014.
I was just trying to think of funding the next
Yeah.
replacements that you said they don't.
Well, right now there is legislation out there, and I'm hoping next year it'll be pushed for fees to allow for computers vehicles. Because it really, it's killing a lot of counties that they use those special funds for Bash Harbor.
Right.
And they just sent out a new policy on our probation fees, which truly go into effect in 28. However, we cannot buy vehicles from the computers, which I'm all for that legislation, allow us to do that, because it makes sense.
So, I see the $6,000 figure, but then again, page 46 of this book, and he might have spoke to this while I was reading it, but there's a $40,000 figure for a vehicle.
Yeah, in the 357 fund,
Yes.
and that's the fund that because that's not probation fee fund, it's a separate fund, I can use the $46,000 car.
Okay.
So
Okay.
And then that fund will
that fund would be
no
based on,
longer cease.
yeah, probably close enough.
Did you talk about the juvenile boarding
Yeah,
increase?
juvenile boarding, that line item stayed.
It jumped up, I thought.
Well, you have to look down below, to see if the two, I'm wondering why there's. So, look, it's here.
Oh, I see,
Do you
it's
see
added
what I'm
off,
saying?
okay.
It-
You would
yeah,
assume
so
It's the same budget
it's the
last year.
same, but, yeah. So it's in here as juvenile boarding and then early intervention, quote, juvenile. But last year, the 29,000 was budgeted under early intervention, whereas this year you have it under
And that was
66.
That was just.
That's what I, like, it's there still. It's just-
Until it comes off, then I keep it on there, so.
We recognize it early in the year, we kind of, that's where, and juvenile boarding is one of those uncontrollable, unknown costs, so we just aim high, you know,
You never know.
yeah, you never know what's gonna happen. And there's, because of that probation fee change in the policy, I did move it early intervention, let me under fees, because that's allowable on the fees.
Okay.
And I switched it, gave some training money, and the general was just out, just trying to get in compliance with that fee policy. Yeah, so we.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Any other comments or questions?
How many probation officers do we have now here quickly?
6, 5, yeah.
Anything else? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's hot.
Yeah.
I think what she's saying is that I was, sorry. Well, something performing like.
Yeah. Morning. If you want to join us, you can, or you can.
Well, I guess. Oh, and the historical docs, there's this, Catherine's not gonna be here.
Right.
But it comes out.
The transfer comes from Lisa anyway, so.
Okay. Very good.
I use their assistants.
That's it, just if you want to use it.
It's the book that I number from them, so when they have to pay. Okay, where do I start?
Well,
Revenues?
sorry. Okay, yeah, page 1.
Down, circuit clerk fees, put 200,000.
We are going through boxes and boxes of old cases, and judge is either noticing them up for hearing so that we can get rid of the warrants or the judgments so that we can turn them over to collections. So that will next year probably generate quite a bit of money, but it's taking time to do it. But we're trying to do so many a month. So
These fees could be up a little bit, and so could my automation document storage, I just don't. Just guessing. Traffic fines, 20,000. Criminal fees, 30,000. State's attorney fee, 10,000, and these are all set by the judge, so I'm, again, just kind of guessing. But that's kind of how I figured it, we would probably get to those figures. Animal confinement, are we gonna write any tickets on those anymore, or, because we're not getting a lot, that's.
I know, hopefully you'll see an increase with that, because we did just hire a new, full-time administrator.
Okay,
So,
I only put 500, but I thought if you turn them over, I mean, people do pay them,
yes, they do,
So-
so
that would be,
hopefully that will be increased with the additional help, so.
okay, gotcha. And then public defender fees, those have gone up over the years, the judges are assessing those fees, so like 10,000 there.
Who gets charged those fees?
Hmm?
Who gets charged those fees?
The defendant.
Okay.
And those are fees that they have to pay, they cannot be waived.
Oh,
So all the like other fees, automation document, all those fees that are called assessments, and if they go to court and file a waiver, it won't be waived.
okay.
That's why I'm going through all these old cases, because they can't waive them.
So public defenders, I'm sorry, but like, I thought that if you couldn't afford a lawyer, that's what that was for. But
It is, they don't pay for it, but in like, there's pretty much, when they go to court and they plead guilty, they probably get assessed a $500 public defender, every one of them on a felony only.
okay,
That's just so they
all right.
generate some money in
Okay.
there, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's a free lawyer. It's not, they don't pay anything for it. Obviously, you guys do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He was here 2 people ago.
Oh, Lance. I saw him at the courthouse parking lot and he looked at me like, you're the next victim. Thanks. County fees, those have went down a little bit, only, well, I put 5,000, but only because older cases were assessed that, but the newer cases, because of the Criminal Assessment Act, don't charge very much for those anymore. This is all by statute, I can't, raise or lower, but the court cost service fees, 40,000, she's generating 49. I don't know if it'll get to that, but.
Yeah, it's
That's
just
kind
kind
of-
of just taking off a trend,
Right.
so. Maybe.
And then, I did not put anything in transfers, because I know last year I just kind of waited until you guys were done figuring stuff out. And then you contacted me, and I'm not opposed to giving.
Yeah.
So,
Usually each year, Lisa leaves it as a negotiable amount, so if we get to the end and we're having a hard time trying to balance the budget, and it looks like we could request some loans, I mean, there's been years where I think 60,000 you've transferred over, have you? Yeah,
the one year when Arlene
yeah,
quit, the county was in such bad shape, I think we did 145,000
yeah,
out of, like half out of each fund.
Yeah.
She had quite a bit of money in her, she forgot to go there,
so, kinda, I think each year we've asked for a little bit, there was 1 or maybe 2 years where we left it alone, just to kind of have it there, so.
I have been, doing some microfilming,
Mhm.
hoping I get a grant next year again. So, that paid for all of my software this year, so that was like 23,000, so. Gives me money to do other things.
Transfer from law library, remind me what that is, I've forgotten.
That is a fee that I collect in the office, but that, I believe, is that Judge Sable's budget?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if they ever, I know Judge Kinzer used to, like 13,000 something to be transferred.
Yeah.
I think it's a wash, pretty much, whatever goes in, pretty much.
Exactly.
Goes to the general
That's
fund.
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
well,
It's
for
just
the law
absolute
library.
fee.
And what are we transferring for document storage, what are you giving?
That, I'm, the Historical Society,
Oh, yeah.
15,000.
15,000.
They do a lot for me as far as looking up old documents and sometimes when we have no time, I'm just like, hey, can you go there? And they get it for us, so it's kind of their deal, so. I think that amount revenues was like 330,000 or something, but altogether.
That transfer is also on page 81 of Catherine Williams' historical documents, as long as we're on the topic.
Yeah, she emailed me and asked me if she could put that in there.
Yeah, so they levied the amount of 11,200 and then 27 transfers over the 15.
If there's no questions on that, we can move to page 10, if you like.
Salaries.
Our favorite subject.
And how many employees are there that, under your
I have 7.
7?
Right, do I have 7? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and me. I'm 8.
You're 8.
Yeah, you're
Okay, so 8 total.
So you have 6
I have a chief deputy, and then I have 6
deputy chief clerks.
deputy clerks.
And I don't see percentages here. What were the wage
You left the
increase?
3.
I had put, I would like to do my chief deputy the same as Judge Sable did his chief deputy at 5%. I don't know who asked for raises or who what. I didn't know if 3% was solid. I'm not.
Yeah, I put
I don't-
3% in there because that's the last year of the Aspen contract,
Right.
for the deputy clerks and, to be honest with Angie, I think I just kept it the same as
Right.
everybody else as I was figuring.
But I
So
know,
anyway, what was your answer? We got about the,
for what?
well, I asked about the wage increases and what percent they were.
Mhm.
And then
I would like Angie to be at least 5%.
because of Judge Sable,
And because she's a chief deputy and cost of living, more duties, ongoing.
So that would change her chief deputy line to 42,212.
that's what didn't make sense. Well,
Say that again, please.
Our chief deputy line would change to 42,212.
You didn't prepare this budget then? Or that's what I'm really confused.
I did, however, she had the numbers in there and I didn't know if you could get raises,
Oh,
so I left them.
Each
okay.
year, what I do is I provide each department, and I don't have to do this, I do this as a guideline to kind of assist them in their request process, and it also benefits me whenever we make immediate changes, all I have to do is change a percentage. So each year I provide them with what they're currently making in, say, like this year, fiscal year 25. I include their years of service, their hourly rate, and their annual rate. So then in 26, they can change their numbers if they would like to change them. I typically put the increase that is contracted by any union
That's why
agreement that we
Angie,
have.
Angie is not
No.
Union.
union and the rest are, so I just assumed that 3% had to stay. But I would like her to get 5.
Yeah, so when you change that to 5 on that line item, 5135, chief deputy, that's gonna change from 41,408 to 42,212.
Okay. Next is 47.
Document storage. I put 38,000 for the income on that fund, and then investments, 1,500, so it's a total of 39,500. Clerk expenses, a lot of my file folders and things come out of that. Envelopes, mailings for jury, so I put 30,000. Then transfer to historical was 15,000 for a total of 45,000.
questions on that page? Page 51, please.
Pretty much the same, 38,000. I saw the investments, you had 2,055, so I put 2,000, so that's 40,000.
Just want to kind of, I've been reminding the department head that I don't think I've had a chance to talk to Lisa, but since they've been kind of behind on allocating those revenues out, they've been sitting in a higher interest account. So that's why we're seeing a big jump in
Okay,
those
because I'm like,
interests.
what the
Yeah.
world, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're seeing a big jump in the interest because of, them not moving the money very quickly like it used to be.
Okay.
It's sitting in the higher interest rate account.
Okay. And then expenses, there again, that is pretty much for my software system if I don't get a grant. And it's used for computers if something happens, or my AS400, which is the tower to our court system, something's happened.
But it says this year's forecast is 38,000, but you said you got some of it covered by the grant.
No,
Last year.
not that. 38,000 is what we take in
Oh, okay,
on
right.
fines and fees.
Right.
And then the 30,000 is, I did get a grant to cover that last year, but then I microfilmed some stuff and did some other stuff with that.
So my question on the expense side, automation fees, current forecast is 38,503. See that line? See that column?
Yeah, that's just a forecast. The forecasts are based off of what they've currently expended out and then projected over the 12 months. They may or may not use that.
Just a second. So, but you're saying that you had a grant for some of that this year? I thought you said earlier in your conversation that
I had a grant out of my automation
Right.
fund
that helped reduce.
that helped reduce some of my expenses that I paid for.
So there were $38,000, 38,500.
38,000 is nothing.
Yeah.
It's just it's.
I see this, it's a
just-
forecast, but
But
she spent, I thought she spent some of it.
It just projects that. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but that, honestly, that column is, in my mind,
So in lieu of her
because
expending out,
she's
Where does the
not
$20,000 she
spending
got in the grant, where does that show? Does that show up in her budget as being, gonna be consumed?
No, isn't it in the grant?
No, it's in the grant.
yeah, so instead
All
of
she's
her spending
spent is
19,000 like it's showing now currently,
Is
if
that,
she had to spend that money she didn't get the grant for, she would be at the 39,000.
Yes.
But since she got the grant, she's only expended out 19 out of her office.
okay, that's what I'm trying to catch up with. Where is that money? Yeah, okay.
And I could get the grant next year and
Yeah, agree.
could not. They just pick and choose
Yes, they do.
out of 102 counties.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I have.
Any other comments or questions?
So just to be clear, except for Angie, the chief deputy, and yourself, all the other employees are bound by the 3% in the AFSCME contract, okay?
Yes.
That's my understanding with everyone, that 3%. I mean,
Yeah, that's what they agreed upon,
that's what I
That's
assumed.
what we've
Okay,
We've heard.
been operating on.
Yes.
right, but I just thought that was set in stone, so that's why I didn't.
I think so.
It is.
They can,
Okay.
I mean, you guys can pay more if you wanted to, but it's not a precedent we like to set.
Right.
Because of the
Right.
agreed upon. And this year, it's gonna be a benefit to us, because, you've seen the cost of living increases come up, so.
Well, they're still beating it by half a percentage.
Not according to the state of Illinois.
Oh, not the state of Illinois, well,
Scott gave us those numbers, 2.4 yesterday.
right. Anyway, any more comments from you?
Down in those.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Been cool, Lisa.
Oh, well, it's an old courthouse, actually.
You have to get that smart lock thermostat.
I know, right? You get my courthouse.
I can see where you just get placed. I don't really do anything with it. I can do it.
Jill Johnson is
Yeah, I I
Don't, all right, I'll go eat lunch.
don't know. All right,
Oh, a page number.
just give me what I got in there, we're quality and then, we're all good. All right, so. I don't even know what to put. So I always put the revenue page, which is page 1 and 2. I don't really have too much to say about this, but I'll hit any line items that you guys have questions on. You know, county, the salary reimbursements are all sent in from the state, and they've already been discussed. The only lines on here such as county building rent, farm services rent, 911 rent, those are all set. We do have volunteer services and workforce development leases that the management committee will have to discuss. And I believe I sent that out a while ago that those need to be discussed and renewed for this year. So those numbers may be adjusted at a later date depending on what those numbers come back and be agreed upon with those vendors. Let's see here. So everything else, everybody else kind of talked about in here. I do like to reiterate that the transfer the transfer sheet on page 2 from the farm account, Donna, don't yell at me. I did put 100,000 in there. For 2 years, we haven't transferred anything out of that fund, and this year we're transferring 50. I believe that we need to transfer out 100,000 in there because it's showing about a $250,000 balance in there, which is plenty. And the rent expected to be collected on that is the 155, I believe. I'll have to look on that one. But
That's been paid.
yeah. So the transfer, like Lisa was saying, from county clerk, county recorder, circuit clerk, and court document storage, those are funds that are always negotiable. So if we find that if we would like to ask for a transfer, we just have to discuss it with those departments. Usually I talk to them and they agree upon an amount and I relay that back and you guys say, okay, or you say, hey, we get like $5,000 or something to that effect, so. That's the only thing on the revenue side. And let's see, my general fund budget is page 21. Most of this is IT related. Years back before I got here, they combined finance and IT together and put that management duty of IT services on the finance director. So for the department head, administrative assistant, and chief deputy line, I put in a request of 6%. And I know that Brandon spoke to the chief deputy position yesterday, and perhaps maybe I shouldn't have asked for her to be a chief deputy, or I should have maybe asked for her to be an admin assistant, whatever the title may be. The merits that I provided last year for that chief deputy position is her years of service and her abilities that she has increased, and she continues to increase on those abilities, with being the only other person in the building that can navigate through the accounting software. And we have recently started putting other duties on her, which are HR related.
So the first one's you and the second one's Lacey.
The first one is me, the second one is Amanda.
Amanda, okay.
And Amanda is the administrative assistant, or the executive assistant to the county board. And she also acts as the county's HR and IMRF rep. The chief deputy line, that is Lacey, and basically she's utilized by myself and Amanda. She handles all of the animal control website and registration entries. I also taught her how to do the citations, which Lisa was inquiring about, so hopefully those will increase with the next year. As last year and this year, I just haven't had time to do those citations. It takes time to do those. Some of the other things that we've taught her is, how to go through and start the payroll process of she's doing the second check of the payroll process so that it can be issued every 2 weeks and people get paid. So there's quite a few duties that we've added on to her. Each year I present with you guys a sheet of duties, and I can do that if you would like to see it again, but I just presented it last year. So those are kind of those, and you'll see a 0 in the deputy clerk line, because of course, I moved her up to the chief position. Office expense, 3,800, I increased that slightly just because of the cost of, office supplies such as, it ranges from anything that we are purchasing that includes for our office as well as other county offices that use that stuff. Same thing with the computer paper line. I did decrease that a bit. I ended up with the membership to a company that gets us a better discount on copy paper. And that copy paper line, we provide paper for this entire building. I don't know why it was set up like that, it just was, I'm assuming for discount purposes, so all the other departments come to my office to get copy paper if they need it.
Do they pay for it?
No, none of the other departments pay for it, except for, the health department does do a biannual, I do a biannual transfer from the health department to that line item for paper and also for postage.
You're correct in your yes, that one time we decided to buy pallets of paper and store it here for the discount. But I thought each department as they got it were expensed out for that.
No, just the health department is right now. The 911 department chose to order their own paper separately. So
Who did?
911.
Okay.
So they don't participate with us in that. All the other offices, like the assessment office, county clerk, zoning, all them, they get paper from my office. So the publications line, we haven't really used that. We're kind of going towards more of the electronic publications, so I took that off. We haven't used it in quite a few years. There was only 1 year where, or we did have it budgeted for this year, and it's not gonna end up being used, so. Mileage and travel, a lot of classes since COVID have been offered online, so I haven't really had to go anywhere for those. Clifton Larson Allen does have a couple of seminars, but they're located in Champaign, so those aren't a lot of mileage and travel that I would need to use for that. Education and dues, I am a member of the Governmental Financial Officers Association, so those dues come out of there, and then there is some wiggle room for any sort of webinars or classes that come up that I could take. Software contracts, line item, I have that projected at 75,000 just because some of our licenses have went up, as did everything else. Those are basically, I list the majority of those here on the page just to give you an idea of, we have our endpoint securities, email securities, we have our server patching, our quarterly DevNet updates, which have increased with some of the programs that ARPA has allowed the departments to purchase. Security awareness, server updates, our VM backups, any sort of hardware support, firewall support, Abella licensing, that is for the accounting and payroll softwares that we use. Shelter Pro is for animal control, as well as the GoDaddy website domain, and then the website hosting, which is Webfoot, so. Moving down to service contracts, that includes our weekly services. And then I also put in a small amount of $6,500 for any of those emergency services that cannot be done on a Tuesday. Maintenance and repairs, I took that out completely this year. The only thing I was wanting to get done was get our office painted because it hasn't been done in, I don't know, at least 15 years. That got done this year, so I took that out. Contingency, I always keep a 15,000 in the contingency just in case we have an IT emergency of some sort that we may need to have those additional funds. So, any questions on that page?
No.
Okay. Page 22 is the county board page. The department head salary would be Paul, assistant department head is Scott. Those are already set by the county board, so those did not change. I increased the county
You
board.
didn't get my request for an increase, my,
No.
like 16%, I didn't get that one?
Nope. Sorry.
Okay.
You had your chance.
Next
No, that actually, I think it gets reviewed. Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, but do they look at that every 10 years? When they have a new board? Or,
There's no rhyme or reason to.
okay, it got increased 3 years ago?
Yeah.
3 years ago.
Or maybe last 2 or 3, yeah.
Yeah, something
Good
like
job.
that. So, the county board members and the committee services lines, I did increase. Seems like members are enjoying meetings and coming to more of them, so we have to pay them. Let's see here, office expense line, I left the same. Publications, I left the same. Mileage and travel, I left the same. We have some that are opting out of that, so that helps. Our dues is, I'm expecting it to be the same from UCCI, but that is reimbursable. So you'll see it come out, expense out of the county board.
Is that a
the
useful
610.
organization to be in? I mean, I know it's only $1,500, but do we gain anything from that?
Those
Other
are-
than Ray gets to go to the, conferences, but,
That would be a county board decision. I do participate in the salary survey, so every year we get this
Andrew's not.
handy dandy book of
he's not.
the
Yeah,
county
he supports-
surveys,
They
and
work with a different group that
I
represents.
use that from time to time.
There is another group that we belong to, your NACO, is that the one?
I don't know, I need to ask Andrew. I was on another matter when he brought that up, or he said who they use. I said, is that similar to this? He said, yeah, we don't find a whole lot then. So
Well,
I'll find out what that group is.
and what, like, if it's not useful,
Why is our legal fee so heavy?
I think the reason that they decided to stay with UCCI is because it is 100% reimbursed. So it really doesn't cost us anything.
They
We pay them
refund.
$1,500, and then towards the end of the year, they'll send us $1,500 back, which you don't see that on.
Pay for rate of it.
But we still pay.
Yeah, I mean, you still
We get
pay for
reimbursed.
somebody.
you get
We get reimbursed a certain
For
amount
all
of
of
money
that,
if he
too.
attends meetings.
I gotcha.
Mhm.
Alright.
Yeah, so, and the reimbursement,
Remember,
you'll see
I
that
got
on
a
the
check
revenue.
and I
page.
said, I'm scared to cash this.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
Legal fees, I increased that, going off of, some of the outside legal representation that the county is expecting to have, according to, the committees listening to the state's attorney. I increased it. You guys can decide if you wanna keep it, lower it, higher it, that's a committee decision. Auditor fees are lowered to 82 because, dun, 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 this is the last year we'll have to do a single audit. If there is no major federal grant funding that we are expecting or surprised with, and I've talked to all the department heads, there doesn't seem to be, we will be under that 750,000 federal line that will not require us to have an additional single grant audit. So the grant audit is an extremely in-depth audit into every single grant the county receives. So that should come down.
Did I see $8,000 in ARPA funds left for county expenses?
Administrative expenses,
Right, didn't we, because
we've allocated it through 2026.
it's for that last single
Mhm.
audit, I think, yeah.
So I'm hoping to expend the majority for audit purposes this year. The rest of that amount was for salary reimbursement. So part of my salary was allocated to the ARPA expenses for the management of the grant, which was allowable under the grant.
Right,
I didn't get anything additional, it's just allocating some of my money, taking it off of the general fund expense. So miscellaneous, I popped in 20,000 there. Just again, that'll help cover any additional, unforeseen legal fees or anything like that, so. Any questions on that page?
I don't wanna ever run out of I don't like these legal fees, but from what I've seen, it's really serving us well. And I don't like it, but I mean, I don't wanna run out of money either, so how did you come up with, I mean, I know there's one more line contingent that is actually the same.
The miscellaneous on this specific department fund, we could use that as well. I didn't wanna earmark it specifically for legal fees, just in case something
Right. But
outside of that came up. But honestly, it's a best guess scenario. I've taken a look at what we've expended for outside legal fees, which this is really the first year where we've used a lot of those,
right,
and kind of done my best to forecast.
okay. So
perhaps
you
what
took
we may.
pencil to paper, try and see actually what,
My best guess.
Are the engineering fees also what you consider legal fees or not?
Mhm.
Okay, so that's specialized.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because we won't have that American thing, right,
sure.
won't go beyond 25, I don't believe. So 26, we shouldn't have any of those costs.
Yeah, those engineering fees,
Most of our
part of the
legal fees.
litigation,
But-
yeah.
Because I understand from your committee that you'd like these lawyers involved for each project, right?
But we are reimbursed
Well,
for the
anything,
application fee.
anything wind, solar, renewable energy related is all coming out of Fund 400. This isn't included in this.
Okay,
This is including your, like the Ameren deal or anything like that. Now, we've talked about, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but he had just talked about outside representation for something.
George Alfonso.
Yes, George Conzo and those kind of things, so.
And we can throttle that back, I think, and we can also make an example of a couple and hopefully that'll
sure,
save.
okay.
So there shouldn't be as many outside
I'm hoping
Legal.
not, but.
as what we've had this year.
Okay.
Unless we shoot ourselves in the foot by doing something stupid.
Let's not do that.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so page 23 is the other fund, what is labeled the other department fund. So this is a fund where you'll see the county expense for group insurance come out of. That's my best guess for now. I did project it at 13% increase. I always go high on insurance until Susie brings me in some numbers. So that will be slowly adjusted down as Susie brings back the numbers. So the employee benefits line, so the accumulated sick pay, every November, employees can put in, if they have a bank of over 210 hours or more, they can put in for half rate sick pay. So just going off a trend, I put in 30, you never know what employees are gonna choose to do, so that may change. Soil and water has been the same since I've been here for 8 years, and it's usually the, between 2,200 and 2,500, so I left it the same. IDA, I have a email request from, and I can pass it around, from Angel in the amount of, actually, I just got it and I didn't reflect it on here. It's actually, the request is actually for 35,000. Here.
It's all above it. Yeah. They're around here.
If you guys wanna pass it around, I printed it off, I just,
I noticed there was nothing from ICANN either.
there is.
Oh, it's just not on the sheet,
So,
or it wasn't on the schedule of events.
no, they couldn't present this year, so, he can come a different time. if
Doesn't
we would
matter
like him to.
if you have it.
So, birth and death certificate stays the same, 400. So then the Transfer Regional Office of Education, I have 100,000 in there for their request. They'll have a better number after July 1st.
And that is like, no, we can't offer resistance to that, right?
From what I was told by previous chairman and what I've read, no.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that number may be adjusted and changed as well after July first.
Okay.
Transfer to joint dispatch, I kept our same amount of 132.3 in here. However, Eric did give me his budgets for, joint dispatch and 911, which he will present at the June 30th finance meeting. And he has a request in there of 232, I believe. So you guys will have to decide what you wanna move from the general fund to fund joint dispatch fund.
So that 232 that he's suggesting
If you agree to it,
balances his budget.
balances his budget, yes. And if you guys agree to that amount, then it'll be placed, I'll have to adjust that here.
Did that budget include another full-time dispatcher?
No,
So that would be on top of the two, this is just the third.
this is the third of the county in Waseca and 911 transfer that he's requesting. And he has not requested anything out of public safety. So the
Well,
whole
there's not much.
232 would be there. So if you choose not to do that, I mean, we're gonna end up, it seems like the trend since they've gotten their union contract has been that the public safety fund has transferred over additional funds to that joint dispatch account, so. So on top of whatever the general fund usually transfers over to cover the deficit, public safety tax funds also end up getting transferred.
And sometimes near the year, end of the year, we also pick up whatever isn't covered, which was $60,000 last year.
Yeah, I think it ended up being like 67. So that's there. Transfer to capital improvement, I'm not transferring anything from the general fund to capital improvement. Contingency, try to keep a healthy contingency in there, because that'll cover basically any unforeseen that the county may. And I believe it's, yeah, so that's it. Let's see here, page 23. So my next one would be page 25. Okay, so page 25 is the group insurance fund. So this is a fund that it's basically in and out numbers to pay for the group health insurance. So your interest on investments, going off of the trend of 6,022.89, transfers from other funds, and I have PH there just to kind of remind me, public health is the 21,690, and again, this is based off of the 13%. It's gonna go down. I have full faith in Susie. So, the employee contribution, so whether they're paying their 25% or 50%, that'll show there based off of the current number of employees that we have eligible for health insurance. Dental is 100% paid by the employee, so that's gonna be an in and out. And again, that's based off of what we are currently showing. Retiree contribution, this will depend on who's planning on retiring and who falls off of that retiree roster, so I know for a fact there's gonna be one additional for next year. I think your husband will be eligible as well, so there may be two. Let's see here. So employer share insurance, other funds. This would include any of the other funds that are, for instance, like victim witness coordinator, she's 100% covered, so they even pay her benefits. That would also be the joint dispatch. Joint dispatch, 911, and highway, contributions on there as well.
You know,
So,
I see a decrease, and that's great. I'm just wondering how wide that is.
a decrease in
Claims.
the
Decrease
claims.
in the general fund contribution, 47,700.
a lot of it's being picked up. I mean, I've been trying to bill out and get most of the other departments to pick up some of the stuff, so.
Okay.
That wasn't being done prior, so I'm gonna keep focusing on that and hopefully that'll be a good financial saver. So, let's see here, 26 unemployment compensation, so I always include an expense, the assumptions there listed on the bottom. This is going off with the current amount of employees that each department contributes to the unemployment, and then based off of what our unemployment expenditures are looking to be for the next year, I'll kind of come up with what's left in the fund balance. So I am wanting to look at $7,000 levied amount for that, and that's been the same for a while. So our unemployment compensation, we've kept that pretty good. So we're seeing some lower rates there, which is nice. Let's see here.
So you have 141 employees?
That includes part-time.
Okay.
So we have 141 employees, 2 employees that are paid for the JJC, which is the juvenile justice. They're fully grant funded. Victim witness is fully grant funded in the state's attorney's office. Veterans Assistance has 2 employees now, so I send them monthly a request sheet, and she usually does it that same day. Highway is expecting to have 13 employees. They have 13 positions. ETSB, he is asked for so that would include Eric Raymond, and he's also asked for, I don't remember what he titled it, an assistant coordinator or something like that. Joint dispatch, that accounts for the 9 dispatchers, and public health currently has 17.
So at ETSB, that's Eric, and he's asked for the assistant that was approved sometime back that he didn't hire, and then joint dispatch. So this is the right. I mean, I'm looking for where he's
a coordinator. So Eric has a request, that would include Eric's, and a coordinator that he has in his 911 budget request.
and
And he'll present those at our finance meeting like he normally
I'll read to you more about that.
does. So then on page 27 is Fund 125, which is workers' comp. Again, this works the same way as unemployment, so you'll see that expense assumptions on the bottom there. Our workers' comp is gonna go up a bit and our fund is going down. So I would like to increase the levy amount to 100,000 for that, because that's an as-needed fund.
Why is the workers' comp going up?
It seems that we've had a few additional claims. It's hit or miss, some year we don't have. We have 1 or 2, some years we have.
They forget those years and then they remember.
Yeah. They do, unfortunately, so those rates are gonna be increased. Liability fund is on page 28, this is our insurance. So the levied amount requested is 48. Again, this fund, we had a surplus in it. Tried to use that surplus, one of those accounts that you don't wanna really show a surplus of funds in, with it being a levied account. So, however, that levy amount will need to be increased this year to cover the expenses that were presented to us earlier this year with our liability insurance and our cyber insurance coming in at the 15. That may be lower, but we don't have a balance in that fund according to what I've seen from the trial balance sheets to cover that, so we'll need to increase that levy amount to cover the expenses. And then page 29 is our IMRF account 135 fund. We're still at $111,000. That fund still has a draft balance of about $3.3 million in it, so we are fully funded. I do have an actual aerial audit done approximately every 3 years to kind of help me use that as a guideline on what we're projecting out for IMRF usage, so. I will probably have that done this year.
I'm just so thrilled that our IMRF is fully funded, because so many municipalities, and we know the state of Illinois is in a mess and everything. And it's one of those funds where we took a big jump to fund it, I don't know, 6, 8 years ago.
Yeah,
And it was on for 3 years, and then it did come off. The government did take something off.
yeah, like the year before I got hired is when you guys took that. So I keep an eye on that. I don't wanna see, when it starts to, the fund balance starts to trail about the 2.6 to 2.8 mark, then, you know, we may start levying just minor amounts, but other than that, it's fully funded and we can. So then page 30 is our fund 37, which is our FICA retirement fund. Then we're all pretty much aware of what FICA is and the percentage. We do have all the departments listed on the bottom that transferred in funds to help cover the complete cost of FICA that gets paid out, so that's there. Page 31, Fund 139, this is the stipend fund that was decided last year to, not by us, but it was mandated to have a separate fund for the elected official stipend that they receive each year. So 65, I have that listed on the bottom there, 6,500 for the elected officials is what is received. We have the employee and the employer FICA and the IMRF contribution, which currently sits at 1.4. I won't have the IMRF contribution rates until after this budget is approved. So we won't see that. It depends, maybe the middle of December or going into the middle of January. It's really low. So the county is contributing only 1.4% for the employees' IMRF accounts.
Has this stipend thing been around ever since you've been here?
Yeah, it's been around ever since I've been here. Prior to that, it was included with their payroll costs, but the legislation has changed and it needs to be in a separate fund now. So that's why we're seeing this.
And it's taxable as every other ordinary income would be, right?
It can't be shown as part of the elected official's salary.
And in the beginning, it was the county clerks because of the elections. And I can't remember who else. And then others have been added as times went on.
Yeah.
And I think most recently the, I don't know, I'm afraid coroner and treasurer might have been the two.
Most recent.
Since I've been here, I've always done all of them.
Yeah.
All of them are listed, I've done them. So it's been around at least 12 and a half years.
Yeah,
that I've done
and
all
it
of these
has,
things.
and it has changed to where they're wiring those into us. We used to receive a check, which the elected official would bring in and, you know, it would get deposited and then added to their payroll. Whereas now it's getting wired into us, so that's when they changed the legislation. So, but we still do receive checks for 2 of them, even?
Circuit clerk and county clerk, but I think county clerk is also changing
Yeah.
to an EFT, so it would just be Lisa's.
So these come from the state?
So basically, this is a custodial fund. We get it, we expense it out. So it should always show at a 0 there at the bottom. The next fund that I go over is, page 33. Yeah. Page 33, which is county farm. Basically going off of what we're expecting for reimbursement, refund of the fertilizer cost. We still have a contract. This will be the second year. 2026 will be the second year of the contract, so 155, 013 is what we're gonna expect. We do have a draft balance in there of 271,000.
Do you mean 200?
271,216 in that fund is what the draft balance is looking like. I don't have a final bid. So that's why the 100,000 transferred to the general fund. So basically we'll be netting, we'll have maintained that 271,000 plus interest costs. So it still has an amount in there that's pretty solid. Page 34, which is the solid waste disposal. We don't get revenue from this anymore other than the interest that we're receiving from the money that's in there. We still do have a small CD. We did draw from it last year, I believe. So the draft balance on that right now is 12,698. We've been expensing out approximately 5,000 a year. I padded it a little bit. I put 8,000. I don't know what they're gonna bring in from the recycling event. We split that with the city of Watsika.
There are some monies available from the state that I ran by John, and he wasn't interested in pursuing it. But there's monies out there to help reimburse or offset and give benefits to the county and city to lower their expenses. But I don't know which committee has the say-so to pursue that. What, right now, see, we don't collect any money really from the benefits of the electronics being recycled.
Correct.
We pay. But there are people who pay money for recycling
events, right?
well, they get the benefits of the materials they recycle. And so, anyway, she's right to do what she's doing, but I think there's alternatives for us to
The
spend money.
money from this, in this, came from the sale, as you probably remember. And anyway, they were bound by a previous board, many prior to me even, that it could only be spent on certain things. So the recycling fell into that, and we've just kind of spent it down to 12,698
Sometime we'll run out.
dollars. Yeah.
And when we run out, we
Eventually
run
it was
out.
gone.
From
Yeah,
what I understand.
it'll be
Then
gone.
we
So
can
if we
close
could
that
save
fund.
money in the meantime, then it would help. Anyway, yeah.
Because, then we're gonna have to figure out a way to fund the recycling events,
If
which
the-
I think is beneficial to the county. It keeps it out of the ditches and the streams and the, it provides a service, it's a service.
Okay, so then the last one that I have listed on here is page 58,
Which you covered.
which I think we covered, yeah. With the historical document, that's great, so we already did that.
Did Paul ever mention to you about making the IEDA line at zero until she presents goals and, okay.
That needs to be a committee, and like I said to him, actually does, I'm working it, so if he talks to you guys and you'll all agree on that, you just have to tell me what to do,
Yeah,
and I'll
I'll
adjust
get
it.
back to him about that. He thinks that she shows some
During COVID,
evidence of why we should pay this money.
right, give a reasoning why, yeah. They have presented in the past, I know she's brought in, Carrie Bell, who's the finance committee for IDA
Oh,
chair,
Oh,
with her.
I know they've been to ask for the money, but I mean, he wants to say, what have you done? You know, what have you
Right.
done?
No, I get it. And from the past, looking back, or I think we've went as low as 17,000 that the county has contributed. But yeah, I mean, that's a
Right,
that's a decision you guys make.
right. Okay.
So.
Does anybody have any questions for Jill about what you just presented? Is Angie Frere coming?
Yeah, she's out in the hall.
Okay.
I waved her in, but.
Okay. So do we want to talk about, I'm assuming salaries are going to be the main point of contention on this stuff, like the operating budgets. I don't have a whole lot of, you know,
He likes
but let's, want to talk about them line by line at the finance meeting Monday. How do we want to proceed?
You can sit next to me, or you can sit up there, why don't you sit there?
Okay.
Get used to it. So for this being Angie's first year, and she just like recently got hired.
Yeah.
I told her, we reviewed this budget multiple times before, when I presented to give her an idea of how this works. And then next year she's on her own, I'm helping her off.
Hey, it's a lot.
Jill,
Just kick me to the curb.
Good morning.
Jill always numbers the pages,
Beautiful.
gives us and you're listed here with your page numbers. This first page is revenues. Is this the first time you've seen this? Or
I've seen it,
you've
but I've
seen
got
it?
a lot of stuff coming my way.
So it's been less than a month.
I've had a lot of things I've seen that I haven't ever seen before, so.
Okay, so on page one, for the animal control side, you're gonna see there in the bottom middle of the page there, animal registration fees. I increased that just slightly because we're hoping to have better controls on that. And I have talked to the state's attorney about pursuing more citations. So once we kind of get our feet on the ground and we can get those citations rolling again, hopefully we'll see a slight increase in that. As far as the animal fines and fees line, I did increase that to 5,000, because now that we have somebody, you know, overseeing that, there will be more tickets being written and more funds being collected through the circuit clerk's office. That's it on that page. So then we're gonna go to page 20, which is the animal control general fund budget. So for the department head salary, I left the 3% in there, which is the amount that was put in for everybody's salary, unless they requested otherwise, so I just left that in there. What we're proposing is to hire a animal control warden, which we do have a part-time one right now, but they're paid per diem. So they're paid per call, which puts a lot of additional work on the administrator, trying to make sure, keeping them honest as far as what they're claiming, what calls they went on, if they're classified as an investigation or transportation. We have been paying $55 for a kennel duty, which we need to have at least 2 done a day. And I'll speak to that too in the next line. So I'm requesting that animal control have 2 employees. So it would be the department head, which is Angie, and then a warden salary in there. So we wouldn't pay them per diem, they would just be paid to work a scheduled hour shifts, covering any of the calls that they get, no matter what time of the day, and to assist in the building as far as if there is, sorry, my mind is not working, transport. So if any rescues or whatnot, or vets that need to get in the building, there needs to be somebody there as well. So I'm proposing for 2 employees to be paid in the department, which will actually decrease the amount of money that is getting paid out per diem.
2 employees on that line, that's what you're saying.
Right, so it would be 1 full-time employee and 1 part-time. So animal control would maintain the 4 employees that they have. We would do away with some of the per diem costs because those add up tremendously. And sometimes, you know, it's not necessarily an investigation that they're going out to. So paying them $55 for that, well, we could be paying them a base hourly salary, is gonna save us some money. So we're not increasing the amount of people we have because, you know, I've always had 4 employed. While I've been there, I've had 4. So you would have the department head, you would have a full-time warden, a part-time warden, and a kennel worker. So the kennel worker would take away all those $55 a time expenses and paying them the base salary of $16 an hour or whatever is decided. So I put those funds in there. The animal control office supply line, I left at 3,000. This is where, the tags are ordered out of. They've not really, I've not seen an increase in cost in those, so I left that the same. Animal care line is taken down to about $7,100. So animal care that would include any bowls, leashes, scanners, and any non-vet related costs. The reason it's so much lower is because prior to me proposing these salaries, the per diem costs came out of the animal care line. Then the veterinary medical expense is a new line item. I think it's beneficial to have the animal care and the veterinary medical expense line separate so we can see what we're expensing out to a vet. I'm proposing a $14,000 line item there that will cover any of the vaccines, medication, emergency visits. However, the health committee is looking at contracting a vet, which then they would receive the $14,000 for their services. If you guys decide to increase that or decrease it, that would be a committee decision, but that's the number I put in there. Postage, I took that down to 0. We haven't been sending anything out as we've been utilizing Kankakee County for all of our lab submissions to the state for any sort of rabies specimens that need to be tested. Mileage and travel, so there still will be mileage and travel incurred as they use their own vehicle. So by law, we have to pay them mileage since they're using their own vehicles to go on these calls that we receive through dispatch. Service contracts, again, this is the second line item where the per diem costs come out of. And this line item would go down to about $2,000 and would include any Wi-Fi or any food vendors or product vendors that we're hopefully going to be looking into to decrease the animal care costs. There are some dog food options out there that I've slightly researched, but on the other hand, it's always been my back burner. I'm gonna worry about finance stuff before I worry about dog food vendors. So hopefully that's something down the road that once Angie gets her feet on the ground, she can look into. We can do bulk deliveries to where it's so much cheaper. Telephone, I did add this line in here. I think this department, like EMA, like any of our public safety departments, it needs to have a cell phone. It's FOIA-able, they take pictures just like police officers do. Plans, you can get a plan for about $45 a month. So I did allow for that. Utilities are, it was decided to have utilities come out of the animal control budget from a finance. With it being a general fund department and from a finance aspect, like I had stated previously when we purchased the building, they really need to be shown under that 710 maintenance line. So I took that out. We're gonna budget those out of the maintenance line, which Chris already presented and we've already reviewed those numbers, so we're good. Building maintenance, I put 5,000 in there. So I put 5,000 in there. This includes any sort of light fixtures, furnace repairs, filters, any sort of paint. We are looking at possibly an air conditioning unit that will need to be replaced. We are looking at an outdoor spigot to help with cleaning of the outside enclosures. So we may use it, we may not. I'm also looking into that LATCF grant again to see if I can get assistance with that. So, and then I just threw 2,000 in the miscellaneous line for any unforeseen expenses. So 2025 budget is budgeted at $180,000. Again, we pay per diem, we pay kennel duties. I think by doing some changes to the way we pay the people that are working for animal control and also hopefully getting some, with the department head being able to fully manage the department, seeing about getting some discounted services for the animal care, we can decrease that amount and it would be a savings of about 25,000 from this year's budget.
Where'd you throw, I'm sorry, utilities, you threw that in? I thought you said-
It's in Department 710 where it needs to. It's a general fund building. And so it falls under Chris Drake's budget and Chris and I discussed that. He already presented his budget. It includes that. So it would be the water and the gas and the electric.
Is it broken out separately over on his side then?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
Yeah, so if you pull up his,
That's, I could.
yeah, if you pull up his
into it.
water line, they're broken out between the admin, courthouse, and animal control buildings.
I've just seen in Watsiki crazy water bills. And they decide, oh, maybe there was a mistake, so
Yeah.
this way you have a way to check on it.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Not a problem. So any other questions for that fund?
Yeah, I do.
Mhm.
Oh, you've added okay, Jill. Animal control, I guess I'm looking for the salary, is that on this? Do I have another page
Hang on
here?
one second, let me bring it up.
Maybe
I'll find them on your phone.
For the full-time, what are you proposing for the full-time?
Yep, I'll be in just a minute, because I just walked the top of I'm looking at these computer. Seems like 5 seconds, but. Let's see.
They don't put any miles on
Is it,
it. Because it's cost 77. That'd be fun to get. They don't have one cell phones and everything.
Okay, so animal control. All right, so the department head salary is the, okay, the department head salary is 43,259.98 to reflect 3%. The full-time warden, I'm proposing at $18 an hour, which would be a $37,000 position. And then a part-time warden, we put in 13,000 annually. It would just be part-time on roll. And then the kennel worker salary, I went off of the union contract just to give me a basis. And I also looked at a couple of other, I think KP County is advertising for one right now for $15.50. So that's what I did in there. And it would be a part-time position based off of about 728 hours a year. So.
okay. You talked awfully fast, $15.50
Sorry, I'm
per
very
hour
sorry.
for the kennel worker.
So $15.50 for the kennel worker.
And what'd you say, the last line, how many hours, 780 a year?
728, 728 hours,
728 hours per year.
which is about 10,815 dollars, approximately. And we could probably do away with a part-time warden for now. We have a full-time kennel worker, but it would be, it's worked out very well with having 4 people in this department.
I was trying to do that 5, because it was you plus us.
Right, I didn't count me because,
Right. But I mean, you know, as I'm doing what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still doing what I did.
so. We're still seeing a decrease in that budget line if we choose to go with hiring a full-time warden and then keeping a part-time and a part-time kennel worker. And we are averaging, about 9 dogs a month in there, so.
When you get a dog or an animal, can you trace it back to its owner?
Sometimes, it depends on if they have them chipped.
Just sometimes?
It depends on if they have identification on the animal or if they have them chipped. And a lot of times if they are chipped, they're coming back to rescues or people that we have to spend time tracking down. And then in the long term, once they're tracked down, they say, oh, that's not my dog. I gave that dog away.
This is gonna sound heartless, but, can we just euthanize these animals?
We have to hold them for, 10 days, we hold them for 10 days. And then if nobody comes forward with claiming them, it can be euthanized. However, the cost of paying them to be euthanized and disposed of
It's more than keeping them alive.
is, yeah, unfortunately. And honestly, you know, if the county agrees to look into being able to adopt out these animals, we can actually make money off of that.
Okay.
Because there is a high percentage, again, I only euthanized probably in 4 years, less than 20 that I euthanized. And we could have made anywhere from $50 to $300 a dog off of those to help cover some of the costs of animal control department. Yeah, you can talk.
Yeah,
Sorry.
how this works. No, I
I'm
was
a
gonna
big
say,
talker, you just have to.
no, you're fine.
You're good.
I didn't know, but I was gonna tell you that like, right now, when we rehome a dog, they pay the vet fees. So I'm not making anything on the dogs as they leave, which we could. We're just breaking even. So we're at least collecting,
Trying to.
what we're spending out. Unless we're,
We are essentially rebuilding this department from the ground up. Jill, because of her 2 full-time jobs, was kind of operating bare
Sure,
bones.
sure.
And 2 things, Paul and I have discussed, increasing some revenues to support this program through boarding and also perhaps getting a contract groomer in there.
Okay.
But those are down the road.
Sure.
We have to get the facility put back together because it's just kind of in disarray. There is some drama going on with previous employees and we're waiting for that to all kind of quit stinking over here. But we do have some plans in place and I had a really brilliant thought and it's gone out of my head and so I don't know what it was. But if it comes,
all the time.
if it comes back, I might just blurt it out.
Well, we're in the county, you know, the old days, we always had a vet in town, so there was no department essentially. It basically, the vet ran animal control for the county, and as soon as that 10 day was up, they gave it a shot, and that was that.
Yeah.
And we paid the most recent was Dr. Yusuf, and we paid, you know, him a salary to be the administrator, and we also paid him a salary for rent and a salary for animal care. So it was easy for the county. They didn't have to have anything. So we really inherited nothing when we lost our vet.
Okay.
So yeah, it's definitely a department that needs to be reorganized. And there is potential there for revenue increases.
Okay.
I have a call into Myron Munyon to visit the issue of, it has always been an unwritten policy here that, and it goes way back, that we do not adopt and we do not foster. So I'm trying to keep an open mind about that based on Angela and Jill telling me there's revenue to be made through adoption. So currently what Jill was doing is she was using fostering through other rescues, where the fosters had been vetted through other rescue organizations where we're sending dogs. So Myron is supposed to get back to me on the issue of coverage for adoption, fostering. We're just gonna review the coverage for our kennel workers and a vet. I have been in touch with a vet candidate who has asked for a list of duties that Angie and Jill are working on because she's employed by a vet north of here. And we're thinking right now, we'll look at it time and materials as opposed to a contract situation, time and materials. So that's another thing that we're doing, and we can revisit, but I think that's a board decision about what we do about foster and adoption.
Sure.
And the other thing, previously, there have never been any written policies or procedures. Andrew's working on that in addition to painting and cleaning and moving things, so we need that list for the vet and the policy.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
I'll get it to you. And your idea is good. Let's get to the, word for the sheriff's vehicles. But we do put a lot of miles. That was whispered, but they whispered it way before you did. This has been a whisper for
Yeah,
a while.
it's been a whisper.
But we do have, I have a vehicle I've only had for 3 years, I have almost 80,000 miles on my vehicle. So we drive a lot, I was driving just Monday till 5 o'clock at night, all over town.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had to go to Wellington, I had to go to Goodwine, Sheldon, I don't know
You
where
went to
any,
Goodwine?
yeah, I don't even know
We
where
need
these
to
places
talk.
are. Like, I'm like, where am I going?
And the other thing that needs to be addressed is in the beginning.
I know, I was like, am I?
Got give the animal control. I had asked the then state's attorney Jim about interfund agreements, or I'm sorry, intergovernmental agreements with these villages, towns, whatever, to help fund for animal control. So if we get called out to them, they have to approve the call out, but they either handle it themselves or they pay us some money, because essentially this is for the county, not for these municipalities.
Don't we have something now where
No,
there's nothing in
no,
place?
and that's what I questioned in the beginning after Dr. Yusuf left. Jim was looking into it, we couldn't find, I mean, I have a template that I was working on to get these passed, but,
I don't follow how, I mean, if it's a county service, how can you charge
Well, I know
everybody?
Mackinac said that they pay, because
Villages
Stacy's on the board.
Well, the same
They
way,
used to,
Oh, they don't no more?
But
no.
it's the Iroquois County Animal Control, right?
Because they take
Similar,
care of
it's
it in their
similar
own
to how the
counties.
police department works. So, for like sheriff, he has to go on those calls.
Right.
But if they don't have, and that's kind of where the police contracts come in, if we can try to recoup some of those fees, a lot of the mayors in the past, I'm looking back 15, 20 years ago, you know, they would say, we'll handle our own animal control issues,
Okay.
and we wouldn't have to go there.
Well, like the sheriffs, for example, those towns are paying for those sheriffs to be present in those towns, not just respond to a call, but animal control isn't like a presence. And
And what I found is if the call got approved, then it was a certain amount that they would pay.
we'll take the money, but I just don't see how anybody would think that they should pay extra when somebody from Watsika calls, there's no charge, right?
well,
Watsika handles a lot of their own. If they don't wanna handle it or can't handle it or are too busy, then they'll call for animal control.
it's kind of like when the sheriff started a bookend charge. They're coming to the Iroquois County Jail, but if Milford's sending somebody up here, it's gonna cost, it used to be $25 to book them in.
All right, well.
So, I mean, that's something to look into as well.
And it saves them having their own animal control,
Yeah, but that's my point, it's a county function, so why should a town
like
have an animal?
a service.
Right, that's what they think they're paying their taxes, that's just where I'm at right now.
I know Gilman, they have their own, the mayor goes and writes tickets.
Yes, he does.
He cites them, because they want the revenue coming to them
Okay,
versus us.
Mm-hmm.
So they only call us out to Gilman if they have a situation that they are either overhandling or they have an aggressive dog or things like that. And I know that was the same with Pepinot. They handle their own stuff. They send out citations to people in town, unless they have an aggressive dog or a dog they can't house, then they call us in because they want to try to handle it, which alleviates some of the stuff that we have to do. And Iroquois, I saw their bylaws, a lot of the county bylaws, a lot of the little towns, their bylaws state what they do and do not do with animals, if we're allowed to go in or not go in. Because they know they paid, well, in the past, paid a fee for our service, so.
very good. The other.
Oh, the only other thing with the animal control is that fund, 460, which is on page 70. That is mandated by the state, that can only be used for spay and neuter programs or, expenses. I have only recently started expending out some of the spay and neuter costs of the county is acquiring.
Didn't note at the bottom, is there any trial balance? Okay. All right. Any questions? Concerns?
Sheriff, he's out there. I'm
Is
just
he?
trying to talk fast. It's up here, this makes 6 minutes.
I know.
I asked.
He's in. I'm saying there's 6 minutes to give his presentation. We're gonna need to
You talk
know.
about this.
That's his scheduled time. $25,400.
Yeah, I don't know, we need to,
Yeah,
maybe we need to
It
allow
says
more time for these. I don't
As
know.
a.
Some of them we do.
it's been working out pretty well.
It's pretty well, but still it's
Okay, so
over it, but
this
I think
star-
if I'm the head of this thing next year.
This says funds are to be
we're gonna
used
have
for
the heavy hitters
sterilization
go
funds,
earlier in
and
the
there's a
day.
star. an
See, I would
asterisk.
do that too,
So
like
that
get through the hard
must be-
ones and
Exactly.
then go to lighter stuff.
Exactly.
Is this the?
I'd like to see too, stuff on Amanda, like the employees
Trying to
listed
find where the asterisk is.
on these pages,
I
so
know.
I know how many administrative
Yeah.
assistants are. See,
No,
Yeah,
figure out the
it's
salaries.
And I'm
there
glad
should be an asterisk
Either
somewhere.
you or I or someone has always asked, okay, who is it and how many, because I need to know that.
That should have something.
I,
sterilization,
one
like
deputy.
a sterilization
Oh.
now.
Yes, that
Deputy clerk or chief
is,
chief deputy.
Sorry,
Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Realized I forgot my cheaters in the truck.
I can read it for you.
I have your gun on your phone.
I'll tell you, I saw my gun for,
This whole thing?
person
Oh,
cheaper.
it's this whole thing, so.
Pretty cheap.
So
trade.
$10 of
Sure.
every
Just for-
unvaccinated animal
Yeah.
registration that we receive goes into that fund to be used,
To be used.
for
It says
sterilization.
page 3 of 55.
Sterilization.
And
We started already have this box.
Of the animal,
Yeah, or whether
it's just, is if we get an animal sterilized or offer a sterilization-free program or
oh,
off
you
program,
the program for it.
then it can come out of that fund.
Okay, thank
Okay?
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it for me, Charlie.
I think that was there yesterday.
Now you know it next year, so we're gonna have that 365 days from now.
Make sure you don't.
They still all.
Yeah, you got a book,
You found it.
read the book.
Oh, I did need a book.
Put it in my pocket.
I'm still in the book.
Sorry, I know where there's a book.
I was in your office anyway.
Here, that's the book that they have, that with the page numbers written on the bottom.
I should have it.
Not
I
the
emailed it
lieutenant
to you
fund.
guys, but just in case there's a book.
Not the lieutenant fund, general fund.
Yes.
Big one. Big one.
How's it going?
Warm out there.
Yeah, it is.
We're getting our first wave of the Starcom radios put in the swaths this morning, so we've been working on that for the next probably week and a half. So Doug's got a schedule, and all the swaths coming in, and so.
So have at it, please.
Okay. Where do we want to start?
Well, it's up to you.
Well, it's easier if you follow the budget hearing schedule where I have the page numbers, so if you wanna start with page 1, which would be your revenue side.
So page 1 of the revenue side, we'll have the police services contract, 221,579. The paper services are pretty consistent. There's the sheriff's fees as far as the paper services we get. So the more the guys serve, the more money we make, and the happier the attorneys are, the more money they're gonna push to us. So, the inmate funds, I was pretty hopeful that we were gonna get, let's see, like 12,000 last year. It's kind of anemic. Our people are kind of poor in the jail, they don't have a whole lot of money. So
more money they have, the more money they have to spend on that type of stuff. So, so when we get money from the inmate phones, every time they send out a text or a chirp, it's 10 cents. Every time they receive, it's 10 cents. When they do video calls, and the regular phone calls, it's so much per minute. So they just don't have a lot of money to spend on that. They can also listen to music and watch videos, and that comes at a cost to them. So, nothing real exciting on that part.
So those are phones the county owns that they get to use?
So there's, we have a company, Combined Public Communications, that we work with. It doesn't cost us anything, and we only reap the benefits.
Okay.
So, they're very, I could text the guy right now and within 30 seconds he'll get back to me. So, he was on his honeymoon and texted me back about 2 months ago. So.
Not very smart.
No, he's not right.
But very, very dedicated people. You know, if we've got an issue, they're out easily within 24 hours. So they've got texts that are regional.
Do you have like one phone that floats around, or do you provide 3 phones if they?
So we have X amount of tablets and chirpers, they call them. So it's an iPod or an iPad. So they're all encased in like a hard plastic, and you can throw it against the wall, it's not gonna break.
Right.
Yeah. We do sell headphones on commissary. So they're like, I don't know, $4 or $5.
Yeah.
But they're designed to, you can't like wrap them around your neck and hang yourself with them. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Yeah. It's okay.
Where's the recorder?
Here's the head.
Okay. So yeah, we made sure that the tensile strength was very low on those. So,
Yeah, no problem. They got it all figured out, and they know who to charge based on they log in or do something.
yeah, and actually our correctional officers, it's such a cool system, and if you guys have a chance, stop by the jail and check it out. We can watch in real time all of their messages, listen to all their phone calls, watch all their video visits. So, I was concerned about the whole video thing. You know, you got guys in the back that are doing a video visit with their people. But the only thing they can see is right here, and the only thing the inmate can see is right here at the person. So he's video chatting with his honey, they show me the goods, and she goes like that, that's all blurred out. So,
Really?
yeah.
Can words or conversations be used in court of law?
Definitely. And
That's
those,
another benefit.
yes, and that's why I chose that company as opposed to some of the other ones. It's got such a robust investigative platform. We can search by keyword. We can know if one guy is using another guy's PIN number, and it's all by voice biometrics. So,
But you can't use anything between the attorney-client visits.
correct. We
Right.
have a separate phone in the jail for that.
Okay.
So it's actually a cordless phone. I didn't even know they actually sold those anymore, but I did find 2 at Walmart. So we're able to make the call on the regular phone and transfer that to this cordless phone. And they go into the video visitation mode, and they're able to talk to their attorney without having anything present.
I think I have my home up right there.
Sure. And then we have the 3, last year, Illinois passed a law that you have to get 3 free phone calls within X amount of hours. So we had to have a phone for that. So my plan was I was going to get a Hello Kitty phone and tap that into where our fax machine was. But then once we went all to the voice VoIP phones,
Voice over internet.
yeah, the Hello Kitty phone just went out the window. So we weren't able to-
Goodbye, kitty.
yeah. So, yeah, if you guys have a chance, stop over there, Investigator Watch can run you through the investigative platform. It can transcribe voice calls. We've actually thwarted some suicides because the COs, they've got their Fusion up on their computer all the time, COs do. So they're constantly watching the chirps that are coming in and out. And they saw one guy, he had a bad news in court, he came back in talking to the son, hey, I just can't deal with this anymore. So they saw that, they pulled the guy out, got him on the phone with crisis with mental health, and wanted a bad situation.
Yeah.
So, yep. I think that's really all that's interesting about that side. Page 3. So the salary increase for Sandy and Tricia on the back side of the sheet that I provided you. At the top, it's going to show the amount of FOIAs and what that entails. So we started out January, we had 8 FOIAs, and in June, we're up to 24 FOIAs, and we're only 3/4 of the way through the month. So each FOIA can take up to 1 to 2 hours, depending on how
I
much.
haven't checked my email yet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Exactly. So body cams, Tricia's the only one that does the redaction and the dissemination on the body cams. That could take 2 to 3 hours of her time per FOIA. So that's going through each body cam. So if you got 3 officers on one traffic stop and it's an hour long, you've got 3 hours worth of video that you have to watch, redact, make sure the license plates, the personal identifying information, witnesses, all that stuff, their faces are cleared out. It's juvenile, voices, it's X out of there. So it's a lot of work. So you've got 72 hours just in June, and they have to do the regular work. So, and I know we visited that last year about the increase for Tricia, and we said if it is a lot of extra work, then we would revisit that.
So she's administrative assistant, is what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Tricia. So that's where the 102, 522. So,
That's, 2 salaries, right?
that's correct.
Trish and who?
Sandy.
Oh, yeah.
They both do the same thing.
They do
Different times.
Tricia does more of the FOIAs, and Sandy does more of the administrative type work. They both provide me with how many FOIAs they've done within the last 6 months. So it'd be interesting to see how many FOIAs we had over the prior 6 months and the first 6 months of this year, because we have had the body cams. And that's becoming a lot more and more. If anybody with a YouTube channel, any news media, anybody can FOIA all this information. So,
Is there a time period you have, that she has to turn things around?
within like 5 to 7 days. So generally they come through Amanda, which is how they should come. But the way the statute is written, if they come to me, they have to be
To do with
if they come directly to Sandy, which is what we've got to do. So it is a lot. The next line would be the sergeants and lieutenants. So there's a couple different options that we're looking at. We're lacking in the command structure. We had 2 lieutenants and a sergeant. So investigations, patrol, and then a sergeant on night shift patrol. With Lieutenant Starkey leaving, that kind of opens us up to increase the command structure with the salary difference between him and a new person. So we definitely need somebody to rank in investigations. And what I'd like to do is either move the sergeant from nights to day shift and have 2 corporals on nights. And possibly Doug Brenner be a corporal on day shift. Or we could make Doug Brenner a sergeant, keep Sergeant Feller on nights, and promote 1 to corporal. So I just want to make sure that we could be 5 years from me not being here, and I want to make sure that it's set up for the next person to be able to have that command structure in place. So, and with that command structure comes additional duties with training and vehicle maintenance and several different things. So I just want to make sure that that was set up. Next one would be the maintenance of autos. Deputy Brenner provided me with kind of a list of some of the
You have an extra one?
Or go make a copy.
yes, yeah, it's-
Alright, I'll go make a copy.
Supervisor like to increase that to 85,000, 75,000 for the maintenance of autos. And that's just to kind of combat the tariffs, and I know we've seen a couple of invoices come in through O'Haron's where the last line item is a tariff. So you may have a $2,500 bill, but $500 of that is tariff. So it's quite expensive. So, prices are going up a little bit on the shop rates, that type of stuff, although we still try to go through Angel when we can, but if it's a dealership thing, then we'll definitely do dealerships. So, we're definitely trying to use the money in that line item the best that we can and make repairs, at the lowest cost. I know Angel Auto has been a lot cheaper on the transmissions that we've been able to get from them, and we're working with Raleigh on kind of looking at those same rates.
I noticed that every month Angel, so they must be the cheapest.
They are, yeah.
I wonder why, why never anyone Sika, but that's the reason.
And we do have, I know Doug, you had asked for like some maintenance logs. So this is one of the reports that we can print out through the new CAD system. And that just lists all of the different maintenance that we do with our squads. The highest mileage squad we have is 191,000 down to around 5,800. With the new CAD system, we're able to input all of those and track all of those expenditures. That way we can see if we've got a lemon or if we've got something that is costing us a lot of money. We can adjust accordingly. So in the radio and auto equipment, that 20,000 budgeted, and that is for the Axon body cams. So for the first year, we paid 27,000, and we're locked in at 16,250 for the next 5 years. So Axon was actually the cheapest body cam, cheaper than what we researched with Motorola and G-Tac, and they're more widely used throughout the U.S. We've been using them since December 16th of this last year, and everything has been going very, very well.
So that 20,000 figure that we have is actually 16,250?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How much are those each?
We've got 24 total body cams. We also added body cams in the jail. It's not a mandate, but it's something that through our trial period with a couple different manufacturers, we found that it really quelled a lot of the disturbances in the jails, because when the inmates know that they're being recorded, they're not going to, later on they can't say, oh, I said this, or no, you didn't, it's on body cam. So, and for lawsuits and that type of stuff, it just makes it a lot cleaner and a lot easier. And it makes our officers better, because they know that they're so. Influence and weapons. So we have been doing up to 5 shoots per year. We've been doing additional training. We've got a high-risk traffic stop training that we're conducting with our own people doing our own instruction this Thursday. And so that's going to save money by not having to drive to Bloomington and have guys out for an extended period of time. We're able to handle all of our shoots in-house. We do cold weather, rifle shoots, pistol shoots, and additional training. So, and once we transition to the black and the gray uniforms, corrections, well, name of Sean Johnson wanted to stay in the brown because he liked the brown. So that was easier for Sheriff Hagan because he didn't have to spend any money on getting the corrections any different uniforms. I did price out uniforms for all 10 correctional officers and for the pants and the shirts. So it'd be a black pant and like a dark gray pant, a black shirt. It'd be around $5,000 for that. So I increased the uniforms and weapons just a little bit to hopefully allow for that.
Is it switched from the brown to the black because all the other gear is black? Or, I mean, the sheriffs are always traditionally brown. I mean, I know this is not a big deal, but I'm just wondering, is that?
And as I go to sheriff's conferences and meet other sheriffs, brown is being harder to come by as far as the uniforms, and a lot of the attachments on the vest and stuff are black. It would just look dumb. So.
We don't want to look dumb.
We don't want to look dumb. I mean, we want to look tight. I mean, we sent two of our guys up to, through ILEAS up to Chicago, and the reviews that they got and comments on their uniforms were very, very good. So I did drop down the diet of prisoners by 10,000. Our population is around 18 to 19 per day. So unfortunately, we still have complaints on the food. I don't know why, but
That's coming from the hospital, is that right?
that's correct. Yeah. They do a good job. We work with them. If we do have complaints, I'll send out the complaints to the hospital, and now they're working with us quite a bit. So, they're complaining about the portion size. They're complaining about,
Won't be bad, but you can.
That's right.
Sorry.
I know.
But it's
I
daily.
complain about my portion sizes too, but.
It's daily the complaints that I get. Actually, I had a correctional officer retire. His party was last Saturday. So I came in and worked in jail for 2 hours so Mark could go. And so I did my first 2 cell checks in 25 years. So I walked through in like a blue Hawaiian shirt, and the inmates are all like, what the heck's going on? But I get upstairs and the guys want to complain about, the cost of the medical and the food, so.
Because it should all be free. Well, the food is, well, I guess the medical is for most.
Yeah. So that's where we're at with that. So that was page 3, right?
Yep.
If we want to go to page 32, the jail basement floor, was on the capital improvement. So down in the basement, if you guys have a chance, stop in there and kind of assess and see what you guys think. The tiles are just starting to pop up. So they're becoming loose. We do have some in the jail that are doing the same thing. And I don't know if it's the heaving of the concrete, why it would do that, but some of the tiles are starting to pop loose, and those aren't asbestos tiles. I did talk with Bill Robinson. He's the head of the maintenance over here at Coy West Schools. He's actually a licensed asbestos abater. So he could actually come in and provide that service for us. We just have to give him the square footage, and he'd be able to calculate that out. Jill and I were looking at it yesterday. Some of the expense that we would have is the disposal of that. It's gotta go to a specific landfill. I don't know what landfills around the area that we can do that, but that would be the lowest cost solution as opposed to calling an asbestos abatement company, I'm assuming. So if we can do it kind of in-house, in-county, I think that would be beneficial. I don't have a specific cost on that yet. I'll try to get that within the next month or so.
We should just leave it concrete and
That's-
polish it.
That was my thought, do like maybe an epoxy type coating, like a non-slip type epoxy coating, or
Some of the stores aren't, are barely even doing that.
Okay.
They could look like runnings,
Mhm.
things that,
if you could do like a sanded, once it's all up, all the glue and everything, epoxy is up, we could get that sanded, see where we go from there.
depends on the cracks you might have in this and that, but
Page 35. Page county public safety. We're still locked in at the $7,500 for the flock cameras. Our guys have used those in more investigations than I can count. And I had a county in southern Illinois call and ask about our flock cameras and had nothing but good to say about it. So, you know, we get hits on all of our cell phones and the emails of anything that's entered into leads. If it's a missing person, a wanted person, stolen plate, stolen vehicle, sex offender, anything that's entered into leads and that vehicle drives through and gets hit by a flock camera, we get a notification. So, and we can track vehicles, I believe it's up to 30 days. That's as long as what they keep the footage for. If we have burglaries in a certain area, you know, and we know it's a blue car, we just type in blue car and we're able to pinpoint every blue car that was in the area. If it's got a sticker on the back window, we can type sticker in the back window and it'll bring us any vehicle that had a sticker in the back window. So, very good, robust investigative platform on that. Starcom radios, hopefully I'll have a solution to that. I'm working on it. We'll see what happens.
What do you mean? I guess I'm lost. You need more Starcom or what?
No,
He's
This is just
looking for
a-
money
For the
someplace
yearly-
else.
to pay the yearly.
Right, okay, that's what I'm catching.
Now, to pay the yearly fees, which is that Central Square? Or is that ICSD? Which one is that?
So Central Square is our CAD system. So that's the sheriff's department's portion of the CAD system. That's what we do our reports on.
Okay.
And we receive information from dispatch.
So what's ICSD? Is that the airtime for the Starcom?
Yes,
The 30,000 a year?
correct.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you. Why is it in there at 41?
And I had that number on there, I wanna make sure that we have at least, some cushion in there. This is our first year of paying for that, so I wanna make sure that we had that. I counted up all the radios that we had and the airtime fees, so,
So you're requesting that out of the public safety tax? Because I heard some talk about you were gonna absorb that in your budget,
I can see if I can.
the airtime.
We can definitely see if we can.
I just don't want to spend it on the public safety tax.
Sure. I do understand. Patrol vehicles, Doug has that. He actually had it a little bit heavier than what, 75, but like today we were going up to pick up 2 Bradley squads that we purchased for $52,000. So we're able to get 2 squads with under 70,000 miles on them for, you know, under $55,000. So that will extend the life of our patrol fleet. We can get some of those vehicles with 191,000 miles out there. So that'll kind of bridge that gap a little bit. And also with like Asia Motors, you know, they've got a 2018 Ford Police package with 30,000 miles for $16,000.
How many miles on it?
30,000.
For 16.
16,000.
Yeah.
16.
You like Fords better for maintenance than GMs?
Well, when we looked at, when we had Scott come in with Nationwide, this guy, that's all he does. So he was able to show us that our maintenance and vehicle use would be cheaper with the Fords than it would be with the Chevys. Especially with, you know, we've got a great Ford garage here, excellent technicians. So we're in the process of transitioning to the Fords. So it's a brand new Ford. So
46,000.
So 43,000 in 2024, 48,000 in 2025. So what Doug has found is we could purchase a brand new one and get all the upfit done at the factory. That would save us time and probably a little bit of money. So that is a possibility. If we have some money left over and they have some, vehicles that they've got that nobody purchased, that's my plan, is to hold back and be able to get one on the cheap, as opposed to ordering one and then incurring that $48,000 bill.
Right.
So that Asia Motors was very easy to work with. The squads that they get are basically departments bigger than ours that they rotate their vehicles out at say 30,000 miles. So we're hoping to start being able to rotate our vehicles out at like 150,000. We think that that'll help with the maintenance costs. And we'll keep an eye on the maintenance schedule of how much we're spending on the vehicles. And, you know, if we have one that's really spending a lot of money, then we'll try to rotate that one out a little bit earlier. So, page 36. So, kind of a catch-22 with the Safety Act, we're getting more and more people that are being arrested, which equates into more and more booking fees. So the 2025 budget was 11,000 that we would bring in, and the forecast that Joe has is 50,000. I don't know if we make that mark, but that's definitely increasing. So what I was able to do with the cell phones and our NDCs, so our computers in the cars, they have a Verizon card in there. So we used to have those through a company out of Champaign. Well, that was kind of sunsetting, so I switched everything over to Verizon, straight to Verizon. And I was able to save quite a bit on each of the NDCs. So it went from $35.99 down to $20 for each one of those 14. I did add 13 iPhones for the patrol. So the increase in the bill yearly was $2,482. So with the savings that we had from the NDCs, I put that onto the iPhones. The deputies they're almost dependent on an iPhone or a smartphone anymore. You know, they use it for the emails, they use it for photographic evidence of scene, text messages, the HyperReach, the school apps, the Axon body cam apps. So there's an app for the Axon body cam. So once you get done with the call and you tag it, you open up your body cam app, you type in the call for service, and that correlates that specific incident to a specific call for service. So it's easier for tracking, and if we have to keep that for the state's attorney or for some of the body cam act restrictions on what videos we have to save and for so long. So
Are your body cams live streamed somewhere? And is there a human watching that?
no, not that I'm aware of.
Can they? I'm just asking, can
I think we could have had that, and I think that was an additional cost.
they? And then how about your iPhones? Are they saved to the cloud? All the
Yeah, when I put the policy out for that, I had everybody set up a different iCloud, so it'd be like C for C, ICSD at iCloud.com.
Mhm.
So all of their information is saved to their iCloud account.
why I bring this up is there was some question about when a police officer gets into an unknown situation and this and that. Is there a way for a big brother to kind of see, what's taking place there, to know if he isn't able to ask for help, that he can, that somebody sees that he needs help. Does that make sense?
With our Starcom radios, if you push the orange button, that sends an alert out to everybody.
Okay, that's fine, yeah.
And through the command central that's going to be at dispatch, they can tell the location of that specific radio.
That helps. Yeah, thanks.
We were able to do that with the MDCs as well. That could have been a possibility through Central Square, but I opted not to do that. it's kind of big brotherish. I felt it initially, but now everybody's kind of used to, hey, it's a safety thing.
Yeah.
So,
And I think the dispatchers also check in with them on scene,
Right, okay.
so.
yeah.
Like every 5 minutes, or is there?
Uh,
Like Bill,
every,
quick
like every 2 minutes,
Oh.
they do a status check. Yeah, right. So, and with the cell phones, as you've seen, we've had more, traffic with the FOIAs. So anything I do on this phone is FOIAble. If this is my personal phone and I use that for work business, any information that I do pertaining to that work is FOIAble. So it's easier if, hey, we only do work business on these phones. We don't have officers' personal phones being called into court or evidence from those. So, 37, not much on that. 38, not much on that. 39, the Aristides Medical Fund. We're trying to utilize a lot of the opioid settlement funds for anything we can with the medical. So a lot of our medical is dealing with, mental health and substance abuse. So we're trying to push a lot of those costs to the opioid settlement funds. I mean, those will run out in time, but we're still receiving those. So, page 40, that's our money that we receive. 41 is our court security. That's basically whatever money we get through the fines and costs. That's kind of what pays our court security officer.
Is that the man who sits at the front by the metal detector?
It is, yes. So if we didn't have Scott there as a court security officer, I would have to hire a person, send him to the corrections academy, which is 8 weeks, and then get him back, and then he could sit there at the front door and run people through the metal detector. ILETSB, the Illinois Training Standards Board, hasn't figured out a curriculum yet. They've said that we have to do it, but they don't know what the curriculum is. So they said, well, we'll just send you through the corrections academy, which I think is useless because they're not dealing with that type of stuff. Right. They're dealing with, maybe control tactics, maybe taser, firearms qualifications. But as far as like the laws and that type of stuff and county jail standards, Scott does not do any of that. So it was beneficial when Kurt Westerfield left, that Scott retired from the CPD and I was able to get him. I asked him the other day how long he was staying and he said it could be 4, 5, 6 years, it could be 10. So as long as we keep paying him, he'll show up.
See the kind of ballistic protection.
He does.
I just wonder is if there's some sort of a shield there just in case. I mean, hear so much more of these people.
Yeah.
Not thinking.
Yep. And that is something that, we could look into.
So do you look?
Yeah.
Years ago, there was talk of bullet, I think Donna, you were on judicial, they had talked about bulletproof glass in front of the courthouse when Maury was the court security. I don't know if you remember that. But I don't remember what that cost was. It was quite big.
Vaguely. I think it's talked about for about 10 minutes.
58, there's another page.
I kind of did a rundown of the grants with them
Okay.
when I presented mine.
Okay.
But if you want to elaborate on, I didn't like go into some detail, I just said, yep, those are shares.
Yeah, the opioid settlement, we're still gonna get around 19,000, I believe. It's 14,200 for one and 3,500 for another one. And then through our so HMA, we get money through this HMA. It's called Health Management Associates. And it's passed through money from the federal government for opioid prices, basically. And then they push money out to us. We've gotten 18,000, we've got 30,000, we've gotten 10,000, just for different projects that we're doing. They love the things that we're doing in the jail, so they want to see us do more and more, so we can be even more of a beacon for other departments. So this last week, I was able to get another $10,000 for that. So we are going to partner with the mental health center. So they're going to have a person that, if somebody's on the medical assisted treatment or the medical assisted recovery program in the jail, they're going to be with them throughout their stay in the jail, even once they get released, to make sure that they're making the appointments, going to court, and kind of bridging that gap, as opposed to just getting the person in jail, kicking them loose into the wild, and now he goes back to those old habits. If we can keep the person still on the medication, still going into the treatments and the classes, the smart recovery classes, we feel that that's going to have more benefit than just releasing somebody into the wild. So,
What's that one called?
so there's two of them. There's towards the top, there's the state opioid response. So that's the 10,000 that I was talking about. And then
The last one's amazing.
you got the national opioid settlement, so it's 19,000.
Last one. Revenues.
I'm sorry.
It's the last one of the revenues. You see it? Okay.
And I think I breezed over the one that had the police services contracts. That'll be about 222,000 that we'll be bringing in 2026. That's for the DCFS contract and the Buckley and System contracts. So I'm still hopeful that Gilman will come back to the table and want to do the 40-hour contract. You know, there's a talk of an RV and Gilman joining and doing a 40-hour contract. I wouldn't be opposed to that either. So I don't know if they're just going to see what they can get by with for a year, and then maybe next year they'll want to jump in and back in. So.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the sheriff on his budget?
And I did just receive, and I haven't got the check yet, but the Mary Helen Roberts Trust, $3,280, and we're gonna use that for the purchase of stop sticks.
I had one question. The math I did, and I know what page it was on, but it was I think it was the sheriff's sergeant of okay, I'll just ask it this way. What did you base their, did you put in like a 5% on the deputies for the contract, or what did you use for their salary?
Yeah, Jill had already put in a 5% for the deputies, which bumped up the sergeant and the lieutenant. So I moved one deputy, actually two deputies to a sergeant pay, and then one deputy to a corporal pay for right now.
Okay.
So,
Because those contracts are unknown.
Yeah.
I went high, did 5% for their annual and 3% for their staff.
Is the corporal rate of pay in their contract? Because I know we haven't had corporals for.
There's a stipulation in there. It right now currently states that it's $1,200 additional. But Sheriff, you had explained that they were looking at getting, I don't remember you.
Yeah.
I have it written down there.
so right now you have corporals at 1,200, sergeants at 8%, and then 4%. And then
Above the highest deputy.
yes. So we're gonna try to cut the middle of the road at the sergeant and make the corporal half of that, basically. So that was the plan. And I had everybody put in letters of intent for the investigator position and the other specialty positions that we have, and promotions to either corporal or sergeant. So this next week, and probably the week after, we'll be conducting interviews, with those folks that put their names in. And, then we'll make that determination of who's gonna move and how it's gonna be moved best for the department.
Is that you or the merit commission or both?
So we can have, my plan is to have one person from the merit commission in on the interviews, but it'll be, since we only have myself, Lieutenant Moorfield and Sergeant Feller, it'd be us three.
I see. Anything else?
I was gonna, at the outset, offer that we go for the topper and have our meeting.
That would have been great. Why
Not
didn't you
too
say-
late.
You're supposed to start that meeting, you're starting that.
I was going to, I got flustered with not having my glasses though.
Flustered easy.
All right, well, that concludes our budget hearings for today. I have no comments. Old business? New business? Well, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded by. All in favor, say aye. Aye.